Hello, free people of the Rocky Mountain region. This is Brandon from Free State, Colorado, and I hope you're doing well. I hope you had a great weekend. And it's just going to be me tonight, flying solo. Michael Vance, who's my usual co-host, is taking the night off, but we have a lot to talk about. So many important bills still to go through the state legislature. Thankfully, we're kind of in the home stretch here. It's the playoffs for some of Colorado's sports teams, and it feels like it's starting to be the playoffs for our state legislature, that's for sure. We're running out of time, which is a good thing. Our best hope here, folks, is that the clock runs out ultimately, because there's so many bad bills, horrible bills that still need to be voted on, discussed, go through committees, go through the other chamber, go to the governor's desk. That hopefully they just run out of time. But I got to show you this here, folks. I couldn't believe this, and talk about a real ominous situation here. We have so many bad things happening here in Colorado around our state legislature, but check this out. This week, I pulled it up. No joke, I'll show you here right now. I went to the leg.colorado.gov to prepare for the presentation, as always, to prepare for the live stream. Clicked into bills, search bills, and then scroll down just to select 2026 regular session bills, just to give you an idea. And check this out, folks. You cannot make this up. You cannot make this up here. It says 666 bills, memorials, and resolutions that are currently introduced in the state legislature for the 2026 legislative session. Crazy. I mean, if you need a sign to tell you how bad things are and what's happening in our state government, that's it right there, folks. 666 bills, memorials, and resolutions. I don't even like saying that number, but there are so many bad things going through our state government right now. You can't make this up. So, we're going to get into some of the highlights tonight. Please like, share, subscribe if you haven't already. Get this live stream link out there. We have a lot to talk about. There's really important bills going through the legislature, really interesting stuff, that's for sure. And I really hope you can participate. It's really our opportunity here in Colorado to stand up and speak out, to do what we can to push back against this authoritarianism that's trying to take our state in the wrong direction. So we have an opportunity to get involved, and so many people don't even know what's happening in our state government. We can really do a lot. So happy to see so many people in the chat there. Great to see a lot of the familiar names and familiar faces. So let's dig into it here, folks. Last week we highlighted some of the bigger bills going through the Capitol, as we do every week. And we had, of course, two of the bad bills pass. And that was Senate Bill 116, the property tax modifications to allow for new property taxes. And then we also had Senate Bill 155 passed as well, which adds a fee, actually really a tax, as we all know, to insurance rates here in Colorado for homeowners insurance, to go into a grant fund to pay for some other people to get roof upgrades. The legislators, the Democrat bill sponsors, are claiming that this bill is going to help reduce insurance costs ultimately, but it's crazy to think you can reduce insurance costs by adding a new tax to insurance. And it's in that bill, in Senate Bill 155. It actually said that the insurance companies are not allowed, they won't be legally allowed to surcharge insurance owners here in Colorado. So they can't like list that out separately and say, hey, here's the fee the state government's charging us. So the Democrat legislators are like, oh, this isn't going to cost anybody anything, because we're telling the insurance companies they can't raise their prices. And it's like, come on, folks. If you know how businesses operate, of course it's going to lead to an increase in prices. Anytime you add a fee or a tax to any company, that money has to go somewhere, and it's going to go on to the consumer, obviously. Now, we did have another bill we talked about last week that got delayed to this week, so I will bring it up again, and that is civil asset forfeiture. Representative Ken DeGraff, one of our Liberty leaders down at the state legislature, has been really doing his best to get civil asset forfeiture reform passed these last several years, and he's got a great opportunity this year. But we need people to show up, to speak out, and get involved. So this week, folks, if you can't stick around for the whole night, check this out here. These are the big bills going through the state legislature this week. Take a screenshot, share this. I'm going to be sharing this graphic all around social media. So Monday, April 20th, we actually got a couple good resolutions. It's going to be resolution day, as we'll get into. I'll get into more detail as we go on tonight in the House State Affairs Committee. So 1:30 p.m. on Monday, April 20th, LSBA, that's the Legislative Service Building just south of the state capitol. two really good resolutions being heard. House Resolution 1008, a firm commitment to the taxpayers' Bill of Rights. So it's a great bill, a great resolution to really just celebrate the taxpayers' Bill of Rights and show that the state legislature understands that this is our constitutionally guaranteed protections, and they should, affirm that they're committed to it, of course. Then we also have House Resolution 1004, persons' rights related to their children. So kind of a parental rights resolution. So we'll dig into details on those, but it'd be great if we got people to show up, testify over Zoom, testify in person. But folks, just testify over Zoom. You can make video clips. It's live streamed. You can watch it. You can get involved. And then this Tuesday, April 21st, in the House Judiciary Committee, we are expecting civil asset forfeiture reform to be heard finally. House Bill 1250. That's Representative DeGraff's great bill. Would love to see people show up and support that bill. Good stuff. And then on Thursday, April 23rd, we have the House Business Affairs Committee. And absolutely horrible bill, folks. This is the all hands on deck scenario this week. I really, really encourage people reach out to the House Business Affairs Committee members and testify. Tell them to oppose Senate Bill 51. This is the age attestation, the age verification on computing devices. This bill, Senate Bill 51, already passed the state Senate and is now going to the state House, but we have to stop this. This bill would require operating systems sold in Colorado, so think your phone and your computer, to verify your age when you're setting up this computer. Now, at this point, it's very loose. There's no digital ID requirements, but that's definitely what they're setting the stage for. And just the idea that our state government can tell a computer company or tell a consumer that you're not legally allowed to sell or buy an operating system for your computer unless it asks you what your age is absolutely ridiculous. Not the proper role of government. Absolutely horrible bill. So, folks, this Thursday, April 23rd, all hands on deck for Senate Bill 51. We need to speak out. We need to oppose this bill and really get as much media attention as we can and make it so controversial that maybe, just maybe, some of the legislators let this bill just kind of fade away and die on the calendar. So happy we have everybody here in the chat. Great seeing everybody. A lot of fun. Sorry if I'm not going to be too responsive to the chat tonight because Michael is taking the night off, so it's just myself. But I'll do what I can to interact with you in the chat. If you have any questions or bring anything up, I'll be keeping a close eye on it as well. But please like, share. Love if you give a like to the video here and get it out there. Love seeing all the comments there. So good stuff, folks. Good stuff. So take a screenshot. Those are some of the biggest bills of the week. Definitely stuff we want to pay attention to. And it is awesome to be able to say there's some actually good things happening in our state legislature. Of course, we know they might not get very far, but it's very important nonetheless that we speak up, we have a voice, and we do what we can. We're playing the long game here, folks. All right. So what are some of the bills of the week? So these are the bills being heard in committee hearings this week. And this is really your opportunity to reach out to committee members. Email them, call them, show up, testify in person or over Zoom. And folks, it does make a difference. It really does make a difference. I can't tell you how many times down at the state legislature, these committee members, these legislators will say, oh, nobody reached out to me about this bill. I don't know why anybody has a problem with this. You can't give them that excuse, folks. It does make a difference. It does matter for you to reach out, for you to speak. They can't unhear you, I guess is one way to put it, right? Once you speak that truth and you say those things to them, it's going to go and it's going to be public record. It's going to get out there to other people in the community. It's going to get into the legislature. We need to have a voice. We need to stand up for freedom and liberty and no more giving up and running away. So awesome stuff, folks. Yeah, gossip all you want in the chat. Really appreciate you being here. I'll do what I can. Hey, I'm still watching the chat, even if I'm not interacting that much. So, folks, here's some of the big committee. Here's some of the committee hearings going this week. So Monday in the House State Affairs Committee, Monday, April 20th, 1:30 p.m. in LSBA. This is like resolution day. They have all these resolutions and they're going to cover so many of them at this one time here. So check this out. Interesting stuff. There's some, there's a lot. And of course, folks, every week, come on, we already talked about this. There's nearly 700 bills going through the legislature, bills, memorials, and resolutions. Can't talk about them all. So I'm not going to cover all of these, but you can go to the state legislative website and really dig in yourself. There's a resolution for Colorado's 150th anniversary. Great. A resolution to support law enforcement. Great. Resolution to affirm the commitment to the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights. And I want to bring this one up because we know, folks, our Taxpayers' Bill of Rights, TABOR, is the number one threat to these authoritarians who want to grow government, who want to take away our rights and take away our ability to have to get give permission for tax increases. So the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights is constantly under threat. Anything we can do, folks, anything we can do to show up, to speak out. How amazing would it be if in this committee hearing on Monday, we had 200 people sign up? We had people pack this place talking about how wonderful the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights is. It would really make some of these Democratic legislators think twice, say, oh my goodness, the polls show that the people love the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights. Now we're seeing it in our committee hearing. So check this out. This is a resolution from Representative Ryan Gonzalez and Representative Carlos Boron. And I'll just read a little bit of it here. I mean, it's only 6 pages, but nonetheless, it's got some good background. You know what I mean? But we want to see this pass. This is great. And hey, folks, if the Democrats vote against this, we got to hold them accountable. We can blast that all over social media, let their voters know, because I can almost guarantee you the voters in these communities have a higher approval rating for TABOR than they do for the legislators. So this is why it's so important here. So folks, let's check this out. Whereas the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights, TABOR, adopted by Colorado voters in 1992 as Section 20 of Article 10 of the Colorado Constitution, was enacted to ensure that taxpayers are directly involved in major fiscal decisions affecting the collection and expenditure of public funds at the state and local level. Wonderful stuff, folks. And anytime you see a bill or a ballot measure, even in your own local community, if you see Section 10 or Section 20, Article 10 of the Constitution, you know that's TABOR right away. Section 20, Article 10, that is TABOR. And I got to point out here, my good friend Natalie Menton really made a point to me a while back, and I'm always thinking about it now. It is Taxpayers' Bill of Rights, folks. It is Taxpayers' Bill of Rights. It is not the Taxpayer Bill of Rights. There is a possessive plural on it because it belongs to us. This Bill of Rights belongs to us, the taxpayers, and that's why it's so important. It's not the Taxpayer Bill of Rights. It is our Bill of Rights, our individual Bill of Rights for each and every one of us. And that is important. It means something. The fact that it's got that apostrophe S on it. So always remember that. You might hear, if not, you might hear from Natalie Menton or myself now. So second line here, whereas prior to the adoption of the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights, taxpayers were often excluded from decisions involving tax increases, debt obligations, and the growth of government spending, prompting Colorado voters to establish constitutional protections requiring taxpayer consent and transparency in fiscal policy. So, of course, you may know in 1992, voters approved the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights, approved TABOR, and it took multiple times. This was a group of individuals, of committed pro-liberty individuals. Douglas Bruce is probably the most famous one, but it was a lot of other people as well who were involved, who really spent the time to hone in on this ballot measure and get it adopted as an amendment to the state constitution. So they needed 55% of the vote to protect our rights as taxpayers. So such good stuff here, folks. We have to stand up and defend it. The Taxpayers' Bill of Rights affirms that the consent of the governed, what a wonderful word, consent. The consent of the governed is required before government may impose new taxes, increase tax rates, extend expiring taxes, increase mill levies, incur debt, or enact tax policy changes that directly cause a net increase in tax revenue. And whereas the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights requires ballot transparency, so voters receive clear information before approving fiscal measures, including ballot titles that disclose the nature of tax increases, and election notices that provide estimates of fiscal impact, spending levels, and other financial information so that voters may evaluate proposed tax increases before casting their ballots. So you might not know this, but that blue book or gray book you get in the mail every election, that blue book is because of TABOR, folks. It's because of the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights that we get the information about the fiscal impact on any state ballot initiative. That is huge. Thanks to TABOR for that. So yes, I see in the chat that Mike Dickerson, this is tomorrow. This is Monday, April 20th in the State Affairs Committee. Would love it if people zoomed in or testified remotely. And just even if you just had 30 seconds to say, TABOR is awesome. It's so important. Imagine we had 200 people doing that. It's huge, folks. It's huge. So I won't read the rest of it because, we can keep going on that. There's a lot more to talk about tonight. But you can read it. I'll share it in the chat as well. So click in. You can dig in and check it out here. There you go. Of course, TABOR should be amended to fees. That is for sure, folks. And I believe there's people trying to get that on the ballot. But nonetheless, there's all these whereas statements. Of course, that's the first 5 pages of this that talk about TABOR. And then be it resolved that the undersigned members of the Colorado General Assembly affirm their support for the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights as a vital constitutional protection ensuring taxpayer consent, fiscal transparency, and responsible government spending. Great stuff. This resolution reaffirms the oath of office taken by members of the Colorado General Assembly to uphold and defend the Colorado Constitution, including the protections established by the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights. How important is that? That is beautiful. That the undersigned affirm their commitment to uphold both the letter and the spirit of the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights and to respect the decision of the Colorado voters who adopted these provisions. That the undersigned condemn efforts to circumvent, or weaken the requirement of voter consent for tax increases or revenue changes and call upon all public officials to honor the constitutional protections established by the people of Colorado. Awesome stuff, folks. This is beautiful. We want to see this pass. We want to see people show up and speak in support of this. And ultimately, folks, hey, if any of these authoritarian legislators vote against this, we need to call them out. Believe me, I will be blasting them on social media and really naming them by name if they vote against this. And of course, it's in the State Affairs Committee, which all these resolutions are because it is kind of a state issue. But you can see the committee members here. Obviously, we know who's going to vote for it. We got great ones down there like Representative Brandy Bradley, Representative Scott Bottoms, Representative Stephanie Luck. We know those ones are going to be in support of this. We might see like some of the other legislators, we'll see what they do on this. We know some of the worst ones down there are going to vote against this, that they hate TABOR, they hate the Constitution, they hate the taxpayers. So let's call them out. Let's see how they vote. Let's listen to that committee hearing and get them on tape, recorded, and just get it out there on social media that these people are the enemies of freedom, basically, here, folks. So this is good. This is important. Let's show up for this one, folks. Monday, April 20th in the House State Affairs Committee. The committee starts at 1:30 p.m. As we saw here, folks, look at this. There's a lot of stuff going on in that committee. So you kind of got to like wait around and watch it. But it is so easy, folks. If you don't know, you go to leg.colorado.gov, clicking committees, just hover over committees, public testimony options. That's all you got to do. Click public testimony options. Here's all the bills. They actually revamped it this year. It actually is kind of nice. It's actually better. And you can scroll down. Like, oh, look, there it is. Firm commitment to TABOR, House resolution. Click on it, select. I'm going to testify remotely over Zoom in support of it. I'm representing myself, and then you just put in your contact information. They'll email you the link, and you could watch the entire proceedings over Zoom and then testify when it's your time. So I'd love to see you there, folks. You'll probably have about 2 minutes, maybe 3, but generally speaking, they're all about 2 minutes right now to talk about how great our Taxpayers' Bill of Rights is and to challenge these legislators who are always trying to circumvent TABOR. So it's so important, I think, there, folks. So interesting stuff. Yes, just Jimmy there. Good job by Rep. Gonzalez on this one. We got to reward the politicians when they do something good, folks, and we challenge them when they do something bad. It's all about policy. It's not about personality, and that's how it is, folks. Five Fly Pilot Explorer, they hate TABOR, they hate the Constitution, they hate the taxpayers. That means they're communists. 100% agree with you there on Jinx, no commies. Yes, definitely, folks. You can just read the bill measure as good talking points as Nicker there says. So good stuff, folks. Check this out. Now, this one is really interesting, folks. Now, sometimes this is so crazy when this happens, right? Like Bob Marshall, House District 43. It's one of the biggest swing districts we have. We have an incredible Republican candidate by the name of Nate Marsh. He's an assistant prosecutor for Douglas County. Like, he is as legitimate as it gets as a candidate. He is the champion for fighting criminals and fighting crime and reversing all these soft on crime policies, right? So that's House District 43, and Representative Bob Marshall only won by 1,373 votes in 2024. So I hate it. I hate the fact that he's sponsoring a good bill, right? Sometimes this happens. Bob Marshall knows he's in a swing district, right? And this is so interesting, folks. This is an interesting dynamic about what happens in our legislature that a lot of people don't talk about, right? There's more nuance to it than, yes, Democrats bad, yes, Republicans mostly good. Yeah, I agree with you there. But there is some nuance, right? Bob Marshall, it really tries to be moderate. It's Douglas County. He knows he kind of has to play a little bit in the middle, and he's had some decent votes. Don't get me wrong. I still want to see him replaced. But this bill he's sponsoring, folks, I kind of like it. I kind of like this one. House Concurrent Resolution 26-1005. Now, we all know if you've been paying attention to Colorado politics, there's an issue with vacancy committees, right? These legislators get appointed to our state government with 20 votes, 15 votes in this back room, smoke-filled room deal somewhere where these Democratic Party inside, excuse me, Democratic Party insiders decide to appoint somebody to serve in our state government. Excuse me one second. And then these people get in our government, like State Senator Adrian Benvenidez replaced Daphne Michelson Janae earlier this year. The morning she was appointed, she was appointed in that morning, then voted on Senate Bill 43 to restrict our gun barrel sales, right? To restrict our freedom to buy gun barrels and create this registration scheme. And she was appointed with 20 people. 20 people appointed her, and here she is being one of the three deciding votes for horrible onerous legislation. So we have a problem with vacancy committees, right? We know that. Now, Bob Marshall, he's been good on this. You got to give credit where credit's due. Okay, so if this gets passed, which I don't know if it will, I don't know if the other Democrats support this or not, we'll see. If approved by at least 55% of the voters of the state voting on the issue at the 2026 general election, so this is an amendment to our state constitution. Bob Marshall is proposing an amendment to our state constitution. If it passes out of the House and the Senate, it will go on the ballot. Okay. The concurrent resolution will amend the Colorado Constitution, okay, to prohibit a person from being a state representative or senator for a term of office that immediately follows a term for which the person was appointed to fill the vacancy in the General Assembly for that office. So they lose that incumbent effect, right? Like if you get appointed and then you're running in that November election, you're like, hey, I've been serving in the legislature. You've seen my name on the news. I can talk about all the bills. I have this incumbent you know, advantage, right? Incumbents have an advantage, right? Because of the name recognition, they're already serving. This bill basically takes that away from them and says, okay, you got appointed, you fulfill that term, and then you got to sit out one election, folks. You got to sit out one election at least before you can run again. So you don't get this unfair advantage. You're not rigging the system. It's a good bill. I think that's a great bill, folks. I'd love to see what you think about this, but I think it's a good bill. And there it is. Let's take a look at the bill itself. And what's so interesting, Bob Marshall's the only one on this bill. So I don't know if it's going anywhere. There's no other Democrats on it. There's no Republicans on it. But ultimately, I think it's a good bill here. This idea that they have to go through the election process or get appointed and then skip an election here. No person shall be a representative or senator for the term of office that immediately follows the unexpired term for which the person was appointed to fill a vacancy in the same district. Fair's fair. Good bill. And so very interesting, folks. So if you're already paying attention to the committee tomorrow, this State Affairs Committee in the House, this is a bill they're going to be discussing. You can speak in favor of it. But it's very interesting, at least to live stream all these committee hearings so you can sit there and listen to it, hear what people's arguments are. I think it's a good proposal. I think this is good policy, and I'd love to see it enacted. I don't know that the Democrats are going to go for it because they probably like being able to be a vacancy appointment and then have this advantage of being an incumbent. So interesting stuff there, folks. And yeah, Bob Marshall, don't get me wrong, I want to see him replaced, but every once in a while he does some good stuff. He does some good stuff, and he's really trying to be that moderate and represent his entire district. Got to give him a little bit of credit where credit's due, right? Don't get me wrong, hate doing that, but that's the reality of it. We got to be fair here. This committee hearing is going to be packed tomorrow, folks. So it's at one, just to reiterate, if you're just joining us, this is the House State Affairs Committee being heard Monday, April 20th at 1:30 p.m. in LSBA. You can live stream it just by clicking a button on the state legislature website right here. You can also sign up to testify, to share your opinions and your thoughts on these important bills. One of the other bills here that I'm really excited about. Now, this one I don't think is going anywhere. The TABOR one probably still not going anywhere, but I think there's a better chance because it's actually talking about what's already in statute, what's already in our state constitution. This is great. This shouldn't even be necessary. Don't get me wrong. This shouldn't even be necessary. House Resolution 1004. Persons' rights related to their children. Well, they can't even say parents. I guess they're so politically correct here, but check this out. The resolution submits a constitutional amendment to the voters of the state at the 2026 general election that adds to the non-exclusive list of inalienable rights of all persons the right to direct the upbringing, education, and care of their children. Now, of course, that's how it should be. None of this should be necessary, but unfortunately, we live in Colorado with authoritarian far left Democrats in control of our state government. And you can see this. I love this. We at least got pretty much all of the Republicans, it looks like, supporting this. And why wouldn't they? So that's good. It's at least it's showing. So the importance of this kind of stuff too, folks, just to give you an idea, because people always say, well, what's the point of doing this? The Democrats aren't going to do it. Well, this shows, folks, this shows to the people of Colorado the difference between the Republicans and the Democrats. And there is a difference, If you think there's no difference between the Democrats and Republicans, you're not paying attention at the local level. I'm not talking about the federal level. I'm not talking about anything other than what's happening here in the state of Colorado. The fact that we have Republican legislators, both in the House and the Senate, who believe you as a parent have the fundamental inalienable right to bring your kids up how you want. And the fact that our Democrat legislators, Democrats elected to government, to office, pose that idea, should be enough to flip the state legislature and get voters fired up. So there is a purpose to some of this, folks, and I think it's good stuff. You can read it yourself. It's 2 pages. It's so 2 pages. So here's what we currently have. So when you're reading these bills, folks, if it's in capital letters, that's what's being added to the statute, right? So already in the state constitution, right, there's already Section 3 of Article 2 of our state constitution discusses inalienable rights. And I do recommend, maybe you're running for office, maybe you want to get more involved, read our state constitution, especially these sections like Article 2 and where they talk about our gun rights and these other things, but are inalienable rights. So check this out here. Now, the capitals is what would be added if this ended up being passed. All persons have certain natural, essential, and inalienable rights, among which may be reckoned the right of enjoying and defending their lives and liberties. And here's the new part of directing the upbringing, education, and care of their children. Wonderful. Why should that be controversial? Of acquiring, possessing, and protecting property, and of seeking and obtaining their safety and happiness. Good stuff. Good stuff. Shouldn't even be necessary. Don't get me wrong. But nonetheless, folks, this is important. You know, when you're talking to your coworkers tomorrow, when you're talking to your neighbors, your family members, you can say, "Oh my gosh, did you see? They're discussing this resolution to ask the voters of Colorado to enshrine into our state constitution that each and every one of us as parents has the right, this inalienable right to direct the upbringing, education, and care of our children." And Democrats killed that bill. And Democrats didn't want you, the people of Colorado, to vote on this. That's why this is important, folks. We are talking about marketing. We're talking about getting this information out to the people of Colorado so that we can change things. But we got to talk about this stuff. That's why I do these live streams every week, right? We want to get this information out to the people of Colorado and let them know what's happening and the fights that are being fought in our state government here. So it'd be an amendment to our state constitution would require 55% of the vote. So pay attention to this one, folks. You know, if the Democrats vote this down, let's get their names plastered on billboards, on memes, all over social media, and say, listen, this is what they think about you as a parent. You know what I mean? So it matters, folks. It matters. I'm going to share this in the chat. You can go check it out over here. Um, Let me check out some of the comments in the chat here real quick. Let's see here. That's the difference between us and them. They would never give a bill from our side a fair shake. Yep. Prime sponsor DeGraff. Oh, Ken DeGraff's one of the best we got. Taggart's on board. Must have bought a new, bigger belt buckle for the occasion. Oh my gosh. Yeah, Taggart is not one of the best Republicans. DeGraff is awesome. Call the leftists out. Yep. All lawmakers should support the right to parents. Awesome bill, DeGraff. Heck yeah. Couldn't agree with you more, folks. And hey, you have the opportunity as an individual to zoom in or show up in person, look these legislators in the eyes if you're in person, and tell them, say, this is a fundamental right. This is important. And imagine, folks, just imagine the news story if 500 people showed up in support of this. Coloradans rally behind the idea that they can raise their kids without the government interfering in that. I mean, this is the opportunities we have if we get organized, we get mobilized, and we actually participate. We have control over the future of our government, but we can't give up. We can't think it's hopeless. It is not hopeless, folks. There's so much we can do. So this is what's going on in the committee tomorrow. It's going to be very interesting. I'm definitely going to be at least watching the live stream. I'm going to do my best to testify in as many of these as I can, but also just watch the live stream while I'm doing my day job. And you can do it yourself as well if you work from home or you have the opportunity to do that. Now, I just want to bring one other thing up here. And this one is interesting. This one is really interesting. I didn't know what to think of it at first. If you don't know Stephanie Luck, Representative Stephanie Luck is one of our best pro-liberty legislators we have. We are going to miss her sorely when she's gone this year. She is phenomenal. It's so sad that she's not coming back to our state legislature. But nonetheless, folks, Stephanie Luck is sponsoring a bill with Lorena Garcia. And I'm like, Lorena Garcia, the card-carrying DSA communist, you're sponsoring a bill with her? How is this even possible? So it made me think twice. I'm like, I got to look at this. This is crazy. These are two people on the opposite ends of the political spectrum on so many levels. But this resolution 1006 is the governor proclamation respect to separation of powers. So it would submit to the registered electors of the state of Colorado an amendment to the Colorado Constitution concerning the protection of the separation of powers by requiring a governor's proclamation, convening the General Assembly to respect the General Assembly's authority to legislate. So, hey, if they both agree with the idea that we need better clarification, in terms of the separation of powers and say, hey, we're the legislature. We need to be able to do what we need to do. And you, governor, whoever you end up being after this next year election, you really can't tell us so much of what we should do. Hey, that's maybe a good thing. And if the legislators can agree on that, it's not a bad thing. But this really has to do with special sessions, which is interesting. You can read through this. I love some of these legislative declarations just because they give you some of the background and some of the history here of all these special sessions that have been going on. And basically, the governor has called all 52 of the special sessions convened in Colorado. Only one special session ended without the bills being passed. But there's instances in which the governor's call demanded a particular outcome, leaving no leeway for legislators to find solutions that match their policy objectives. For instance, in 2025, the governor's call for a special session detailed 11 items for the General Assembly to address. Many of the items confined the legislator to make changes to a particular law. For example, under fiscal terms, the call ordered the General Assembly to make adjustments and reductions to the sales tax vendor fees in that revised statute. And these legislators are saying, "Hey, Mr. Governor, you don't really have the authority to do that, right? You can tell us kind of the general idea of why there's a special session. That is your purview, but you cannot tell us specifically what legislation, what laws, what revised statutes we need to be messing with because we are our separate and co-equal branch of government." So this says, therefore, the General Assembly finds and declares that it is in the best interest of the people of Colorado to ensure that any special session called by the governor is not so narrowly framed as to infringe upon the separation of powers or restrict the people's representatives from meeting the pressing needs of Colorado. So I don't have a problem with this. Of course, anything with Lorena Garcia's name on it, I'm always suspicious of. But Stephanie Luck's on there, reading through it. Yeah, it kind of makes sense. The governor trying to say, hey, you have a special session and you have to do exactly what I say. Well, Mr. Governor, that's not necessarily your purview. So very interesting stuff. Sharing that over in the chat here. Curious what you think about this one, but kind of nuanced, kind of insider baseball, I guess. If you been following the special sessions for years, it's interesting stuff nonetheless. So jam-packed committee tomorrow, folks. This House State Affairs Committee. I'm really hoping people can show up and speak in favor of 1008 for our TABOR, our Taxpayers Bill of Rights, and then also, the parents' rights related to their children. I think that would be great to see people show up and speak in favor of that. And hey, folks, if you're running for office, if you want to run for office, it's not a bad idea. Testify on a bill. Get in on video, use it as part of your campaign, get your name out there. Even if you're not elected, folks, you could say you're fighting for the rights of the people of Colorado. Not a bad thing. So I'm very curious to see what's going to happen on the vacancy bill tomorrow. So very interesting stuff, folks. That's all in the House State Affairs Committee and LSBA. So jam-packed, lots of interesting things happening, that's for sure. Now, in the House Judiciary Committee on Tuesday, we're jumping over to Tuesday now. So a lot of the action, what I'm going to be paying attention to on Monday, on tomorrow, is the House State Affairs Committee. On Tuesday, the House Judiciary Committee is supposed to be debating civil asset forfeiture. Now, folks, they've moved this bill multiple times already. It keeps changing, and I know Representative DeGraff is working behind the scenes, from what I understand, to try and refine this bill to come up with the best possible bill so that they can get it passed, right? Now, if you don't know Representative DeGraff, one of our liberty leaders, one of the best pro-liberty voices we have in Colorado politics. And he's been carrying civil asset forfeiture really for all the years he's been in the state government. He's been trying to reform civil asset forfeiture, but it keeps failing. We've had Republicans kill civil asset forfeiture because the cops and the sheriffs and the DAs told them to. And we have Democrats who are maybe a little skeptical of the thing, but we've had some Democrats vote for it. So this year, what's different? Representative DeGraff is working with Representative Jennifer Bacon, the assistant majority leader, one of the highest ranking Democrats in our state legislature, on this bill. And she has been receptive to it and open to it. And I think that's exciting. There's an incredible opportunity, folks, this year to get civil asset forfeiture reformed. If you don't know what civil asset forfeiture is, folks, if you get pulled over and you have too much money, quote unquote, too much money, quote unquote, too many assets on you at the time, there's a presumption of guilt that law enforcement can use to confiscate those goods. So you've heard stories about people flying through the airport or getting pulled over, and maybe they just took money out of the bank or got some sort of settlement or got an inheritance, and they have like 12 grand in the car. Well, law enforcement can legally seize that money on suspicion of a crime just because it's so much. And it's really hard to get it back. And in some cases, people don't get it all back. So civil asset forfeiture is a disaster. It's bad policy. It's anti-American. But of course, law enforcement loves it. Law enforcement loves getting more money. So this bill, just reading the quick summary here in the fiscal note, fiscal notes are always a good little cheat sheet to get some details on the bill. The bill will require the defendants in forfeiture proceedings be appointed legal counsel upon request. Okay, right to an attorney. Creates a cash fund to pay for attorney fees. Okay, it also changes the distribution of forfeiture proceeds as outlined below. So current law, this is crazy, folks, if you don't know this. And I know we've covered this in the past, but hopefully it's coming up this week, and it is so important to talk about. Current law allows for circumstances when a law enforcement agency may retain seized property forfeiture without a criminal conviction. Now, folks, that is the most anti American, anti freedom, anti liberty line you've probably heard today. Current law allows for circumstances when a law enforcement agency retain seized property without a criminal conviction. So this bill would require a criminal conviction be entered against a defendant for a law enforcement agency to retain the forfeiture assets. The bill also requires a plaintiff to prove that a deceased owner of seized property was involved in criminal acts. So there's a lot to this bill. The most important aspect, folks, is that you should have to be convicted of a crime before law enforcement can seize your assets. I mean, that should not be controversial. And really, outside of law enforcement, it's not controversial. Most Coloradans, left, right, whatever, are going to agree to that. You don't have to be a libertarian to understand that civil asset forfeiture is a problem if it doesn't require a criminal conviction. So this is moving us in the right direction. The defense counsel in forfeiture cases, yeah, take it or leave it. I don't like the idea of spending more money, but hey, right to an attorney if you don't have it, probably not a bad thing. But check this out here. This is the key thing, and this is why I'm testifying in support of this bill. The bill clarifies that after July 1st, 2026, the seizing law enforcement agency may only retain any proceeds from the sale of forfeited property for the cost of storing the seized property and costs to the district attorney for prosecuting the forfeiture proceeding. So, folks, this is going to limit their ability to keep more of our assets. It's really going to disincentivize law enforcement from seizing our property without just cause. So, I know it's crazy, folks. Don't get me wrong. Like supporting law enforcement when they do something right, but civil asset forfeiture is a policy that needs to change. That is for sure. So keep an eye on it, folks. Keep an eye on this one. Really hope people show up and support. So Tuesday in the House Judiciary Committee, God willing, this bill will be heard. It's been delayed multiple weeks. We've been talking about it for a long time now. But on April 21st in the House Judiciary Committee at 1:30 p.m. at House Committee Room 107, it's the first floor of the state capitol. Hopefully this bill will be heard, and we really want people to support it. I expect there to be amendments to this bill. I expect there to be some changes, but nonetheless, it'll be very interesting, folks. And I guarantee you, watch this live stream of the bill. Watch this live stream too, but watch this committee hearing, and you're going to see law enforcement show up and say, no, we need to be able to keep assets from people. It's extremely revealing, folks. It's extremely revealing to see what goes on. And the House Judiciary Committee, folks, I hate to say it, but there's a chance that even with the Democrat majority, we might not see this bill pass. I got to tell you, folks, the law enforcement community has been lobbying our Republican legislators to tell them to stop this bill. And we did see it stopped. 2 years ago, Representative Ryan Armagost, Representative Gabe Evans voted no on civil asset forfeiture from Ken DeGraff and actually killed the bill back then. We had Jarvis Caldwell last year vote against civil asset forfeiture reform, basically stopping the bill in committee. So we have Scott Slaw, Ava Flanell, Rebecca Kelty. Rebecca Kelty voted right last year. We'll see what she does this year. And Matt Soper, who are being told by law enforcement that this is a bad bill. So it'll be very interesting to see. I think Javier Marbury will support it. But you got Chad Clifford, cop, law enforcement guy, Cecilia Espinoza, former judge. They might not like this. They might be more on the side of keeping our assets and stealing our money. So it's one of those rare opportunities, folks, when you got Lorena Garcia and Yara Zokai on the right side of the bill, and you potentially have some Republicans on the wrong side of this bill. So that's why it's so important, folks, for you to speak out, for you to have a voice, because maybe the Democrats aren't going to listen to you, but maybe the Republicans will. If they're like, oh my gosh, I know that person, as a Republican legislator, and they see, oh my gosh, Brandon's testifying in support of this bill, and I'm going to vote against it, and he's going to blast me all over social media if I do the wrong thing. Maybe it makes them think differently. I don't know. I'd like to hope so, but it's worth a shot, folks. It's worth a shot to stand up for our freedom, stand up for our liberty. So this is Tuesday in the House Judiciary Committee on April 21st. And 100%, folks, law enforcement is not always on the side of the people. I'd say most law enforcement officers are good people, but nonetheless, the systems themselves are built to not necessarily serve the interests of us, the people. So important there. There's also a bill being heard in this committee about voluntary alcohol breath test. So if you get into like a car accident, law enforcement would give you the opportunity, totally voluntary, but say, hey, do you want to go ahead and take a breathalyzer? Maybe it'll clear you from any issues down the road. If you go ahead and take the breathalyzer now, not required necessarily. So that's an interesting bill. It'll be interesting to see that one being discussed, but I really hope 1250 makes it through. And believe me, folks, if any of those Republicans vote against this bill, they are going to be hearing from it on social media. That's for sure. So there you go, folks. That's Tuesday in the House Judiciary Committee. Let's go ahead and move into Wednesday here, folks. Wednesday, the House Business Affairs and Labor Committee. So this is Wednesday, April 22nd, upon adjournment of the State House, House Committee Room 112. Now, this one, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on. This bill passed unanimously out of the state Senate already. So it's going to pass the state House probably unanimously. It's a good bill. And I've been really paying attention this year. I haven't in the years past, but I need to start paying more attention to the Colorado Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce, has been a good organization to talk about business issues, right? Like they talk about what's happening in the business community and how these bills affect businesses. And I've seen a lot of them show up to testify in support or against certain bills this year. So it made me really want to dig in more to them. And I found this bill, the Chamber of Commerce has been pushing this bill big time. They are celebrating it. They're really happy about it. And the idea is, folks, that it's going to create a review of administrative rules in our state government to basically repeal some of those outdated rules, but kind of create a procedure, create a process in which some of these bad rules from our state government will be repealed and, be reviewed and be regulated. So I won't spend a ton of time on it. Let's just jump over to the fiscal note real quick, just so I can read you that brief summary here. Um, Summary of the legislation for Senate Bill 137. The State Administrative Procedure Act, APA, outlines procedures for reviewing the effectiveness and authority of rules promulgated by state agencies. The bill modifies this procedure by requiring rule reviews to happen at least every 5 years. So they're having these state agencies looking at rules and saying, do we need this? Is this really effective? Is this really serving its purpose? Specifying additional criteria for determining a rule's effectiveness, requiring departments to report on rule reviews during their annual SMART Act hearings, and allowing departments to establish their own rule review schedule without consulting DORA, the Department of Regulatory Affairs. So the idea is we're going to be able to roll back some more of these rules that are maybe outdated and not serving their purposes. Don't get me wrong, I'd love to see this bill do a lot more. I think there's a lot more that needs to be done to support our business community here in Colorado, to try and bring back employers, to try and give people more opportunity. But hey, this is one little small step in the right direction. And as you can see here, you got Senator James Coleman, the Senate president, right? Highest member of the Senate. Julie McCluskey, Speaker of the House. So the two highest ranking Democrats in our state government. And then our two highest ranking Republicans. Senate Minority Leader Cleve Simpson and House Minority Leader Jarvis Caldwell. So it's all leadership on both sides of the aisle, 100% in support of this. It's this idea that the Chamber of Commerce has been pushing to say, hey, we need to do something to repeal some of these outdated rules and give us, the business community, a little bit more opportunity. You can see there, 35-0 vote out of the state Senate. Totally unanimous. I'm sure it's going to happen the same in the House. So not a lot of controversy with this one, but nonetheless, hey, it does show there's opportunity, folks. It does show that some of the Democrats understand that the state government has become overly burdensome to businesses. And they're at least willing to do something about it. So, that's interesting and that's important. That does matter, right? That does matter. I'm going to share this in the chat here, folks, so you can get it out there to people and read and dig into it if you'd like. And yeah, Break the Chains Media digging into some homeless NGO fraud, working on the story. Good stuff. Mushroom says, would it be good to have the rules reviewed outside of that department? Sure. Simone Rubino here for Brandon to spread the word. Right on. Appreciate it. Mushroom says, I thought we had the voluntary breathalyzer test. I don't know, because that bill, Mushroom, expands it. I read it earlier today. Definitely dig into it if you're interested, but it seems like it's going to create a new possibility for more voluntary breathalyzers. So interesting stuff there. Let's jump over to Wednesday, folks, in the House Energy Committee here. House Energy Committee, Wednesday, April 22nd, upon adjournment of the State House. Now, we have a great bill from Representative DeGraff, and if he joined our live stream a couple weeks ago, gosh, longer than that now maybe, talking about this bill. So, folks, when you go to the legislative calendar here, if it says for action only, it means they're not going to debate, right? There's no opportunity for public comment. There's already been public comment on House Bill 1246. There was already that committee hearing where people were able to testify and talk about this bill. the Representative DeGraff delayed this bill. He said, "Hey, don't vote on this bill yet because there's going to be some changes I want to make to it." So there's going to basically the point of it now being in this committee or this committee date would be to amend the bill to make any necessary changes and then vote on it. So that's really all that's going to happen with 1246. There's not an opportunity for us to speak on it. Hopefully, it makes it out because we have massive electrical energy issues here in Colorado. Just briefly here, the bill defines a consumer-regulated electric utility as an electric generation and supply system constructed for the sole purpose of serving new industrial, commercial, data center, or other non-residential loads not previously served by a provider of retail electric service. The bill states that a consumer-regulated electric utility is not a public utility and is not subject to regulation by the Public Utilities Commission, the PUC, unless the consumer-regulated electric utility elects to interconnect with the electric grid in a service territory of a public utility that is subject to the regulation by the Commission. A consumer-regulated electric utility may construct and operate a facility within an existing public right-of-way, subject to applicable permitting, restoration, and public safety requirements. So the idea here, folks, is maybe there's a data center moving in, and the data center is like, okay, we're going to build our own power plant, basically. We're going to build a little way where we can generate our own power for this purpose. It could be an industrial application, some sort of commercial application. And Representative DeGraff's bill says, well, hey, if they do that and they're self-contained, it's not going to be regulated by the PUC. This electric utility will be able to, of course, they'll be subject to laws, but basically not the PUC, and be able to say we're going to be able to generate electricity. Maybe they can have a small nuclear reactor or something like that at some point, and say, hey, that's going to cover all this. You don't have to worry about the electric grid interfering with that because that's some concern with the data centers and other industrial applications. So that's the idea behind this bill, is that Representative DeGraff says, okay, we're having power issues, we're having electric issues. The PUC is also terrible, right? Those are all facts. The PUC stinks, and there's issues with electrical generation, and there's these companies coming in like data centers and stuff like that who want to build. So what do we do? Well, here's a bill that'll solve that problem. And that's Representative DeGraff's bill here, House Bill 1246. So even though you can't testify on this bill, folks, you can still reach out to members of the House Energy and Environment Committee. You can go on the legislative website here. You can email them. You can call them. You can tell them to support this bill. Wouldn't hurt anything. And hey, we got little Manny Rutnell there who's running for a higher office. If he votes bad on this bill, that could be used against him in the election. Another good reason to pay attention to these committee hearings. So interesting stuff, folks. The bill was already discussed, as we talked about here. The hearing was on March 12th, and then the bill was laid over unamended. The amendments, apparently there was an amendment that ended up failing, but Representative DeGraff is working on some new amendments to get this the best version of this bill possible to try and get it passed. So hopefully this bill will be heard on Wednesday. So we'll keep an eye on that one. Another one that I thought was really interesting here was House Bill 1337. So Colorado is starting to move in the direction of promoting nuclear energy. That is a good thing. We're moving in the right direction there. We had some signature legislation passed last year, and these are some follow-up bills this year that are going to help the nuclear energy industry kind of develop here in Colorado. So this bill, there's a lot here to it. Let's just jump over to the fiscal note, get the Cliff Notes version, folks. So there is some state expenditures on this bill that does hurt its chances because the budget is so tight. But this bill establishes the Colorado Energy Office as the state's permitting coordinator for nuclear energy projects. The CEO, the Colorado Energy Office, will be the single point of contact throughout the permitting process for developers, stakeholders, and permitting agencies. The office is required to build administrative and coordination capacity to prepare for federal funding opportunities, applications, and award management. So the idea here, folks, is that basically we're trying to set up the framework for nuclear energy projects here in Colorado. So last year, and this is great about the fiscal notes. If you click in the fiscal notes, they have some background sometimes, not always, but they do. House Bill 25-1040 added nuclear energy to the statutory definitions of clean energy for the state's renewable energy standard. Colorado currently has no operating nuclear power plants, unfortunately. The Fort St. Vrain nuclear plant, with an output of 330 megawatts, opened in 1979 and was decommissioned between 1989 and 1992. Today, Fort St. Vrain is a combined cycle nuclear gas plant with a total output to the grid of just under 1,000 megawatts. So that's kind of interesting, some interesting history there that Colorado did have a nuclear power plant at one point, and we got to get back there. We got to get back there, folks. The whole green energy thing is failing us. That whole agenda is so much grift and so much ripping us off and sending us back to the Stone Age. So this is a good bill. And you do have, look at this bill sponsors, Alex Valdez, who, despite his calm appearance, is an extremely radical leftist. And then you have Representative Ty Winter, who's, Southeast Colorado, relatively conservative, assistant minority leader. So, this bill is a bipartisan effort with some people in leadership positions that potentially are going to get this bill through. So good bill. We'll see what happens to it, but it's going to be heard this Wednesday, April 22nd, in the House Energy and Environment Committee. So if you're interested in energy, folks, you just want to learn more about nuclear energy, honestly, sit through this committee hearing. Click on the listen link and you can live stream it and listen all day. You can listen to both these bills on Wednesday and become an expert. I got to tell you, sitting, doing my day job and listening to some of these committee hearings this year, I've learned so much about like gambling, so much about our craft brewery industry, so much about so many different things just by sitting there and listening to people come in and testify and talk about what this bill's going to do and sharing their expertise. It's like an education, folks. It's an education. You'll be one of the most informed people in Colorado on energy if you just sit and listen to all the energy committee hearings every day, because the people who are coming in to testify and talk about it are experts. So interesting stuff there, folks. Definitely check that out. Two, I would say, good bills being heard this Wednesday in the House Energy Committee. Now, Thursday, April 23rd, on the House Business and Affairs and Labor Agenda, Labor Committee. So House Business Affairs and Labor Committee, folks, this Thursday, April 23rd, 1:30 p.m., House Committee Room 112. Folks, this is all hands on deck. Please call to action here. This is the worst bill of the week by far. Senate Bill 51, Age Attestation on Computing Devices. Folks, this is the only bill being heard in this committee hearing this Thursday, and we need to pack the House. We need to pack the House. And folks, this bill already passed out of the state Senate and is now moving into the state House. If there is enough controversy, if there is enough outcry, if there is enough people testifying and bringing this one to attention, I think this bill could be stopped. Maybe even Governor Jared Polis could veto it. So, folks, if this bill passes, let's jump over to that fiscal note here. This is scary stuff. This is this digital gulag putting us on the path to digital ID. If this bill passes, folks, beginning on January 1st, 2028, the bill requires operating system providers to collect a user's birth date or age during account setup and generate an age range indicator that can be shared with applications. So, of course, I did listen to the committee hearing when this was going through the Senate, and they said, no, 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 this bill's not going to require a facial scan. It's not going to require an ID. It's not going to require a credit card, any of those things to set this up. This bill is much, much more loose and less restrictive than that. It's really just asking you to put your age in there and your birthday, something along those lines, folks. So we're trying to do something that's not going to be too intrusive. But folks, we know where this is going. This is the first step. This is the start. This is where they're going. And then you can imagine a year from now or 2 years from now, 2020, 2030, whenever, they're going to say, yeah, we passed that bill unanimously. We passed that bill, bipartisan effort back in 2026, but it's not doing its purpose. We need to strengthen that bill. This bill has too many loopholes. This law has too many loopholes. So we need to now have digital ID and this and that. No, folks, it is not the proper role of government. It is not the responsibility of government to require that operating systems collect our birth date or our age. There's no political, no legal justification in my mind for our government to make that, to say you cannot buy or sell operating system software unless it's doing this. Absolutely insane, folks. That's really, in my mind, the most important aspect of this bill. There is more to it, of course, here. I did have a legislator, I did have a state Republican legislator who voted for this bill flat out tell me, no, this is a good pro-privacy bill because the information it collects, it says it can't be shared to anybody. So it's actually going to protect people's privacy. And it's like, are you kidding me? This bill is only collecting, the computers are only going to collect this information because of this bill. They don't need to protect this information. They don't even need to collect it at all. How about that? Right? So the idea here is that application developers must request an age signal when an application is downloaded and launched. So you get your phone, it's going to know your birthday, it's going to know your age. And then under Colorado state law, if you go download an app, you're going to get on your dating profile app or social media app, and it's going to get a signal from your phone or your computer that's going to say, okay, here's what the age is based on when you set it up. Once received, the developer is treated as having knowledge of the user's age range across all versions and access points of the application, unless the developer has reliable evidence that the user's actual age differs, in which case that information controls. Application developers must use the age information and comply with any applicable law. So they're creating the system in which these developers, these apps, are going to be legally required to know your age or age range and then use that in terms of allowing access to their platforms, their software. Developers may not request additional data beyond what the bill requires or share age signals for unrelated purposes. Violations are enforceable by the Attorney General through civil penalties of up to $2,500 per affected minor for negligent violations and up to $7,500 per affected minor for intentional violations. Crazy stuff, though, folks. Crazy, crazy stuff. The bill exempts applications that predominantly function as a tool for inter-office communication, intra-business software solicitation, or technical support. It also exempts applications developed by the state institutions of higher education, a county, a city, a county, municipality from the requirements of this bill, as long as the data is collected, maintained, disclosed, communicated, and used as authorized by state and federal law for non-commercial purposes. So insane, folks. The state government is going to be saying you cannot buy software in Colorado. You cannot sell operating systems unless they have this age attestation requirement. And of course, folks, of course, and you're going to hear this in the committee hearing, and I encourage you to go listen to the committee hearing previously on this bill in the Senate. They say this is all, we're just following California's lead, because as California goes with software regulation, so goes the rest of the country. So we're just updating Colorado's laws to conform with what California is saying, which is the dumbest excuse of all time. But Assembly Bill 1043, which they actually linked to in the fiscal note here, signed by the absolutely horrible governor of California in October 2025. Now, the one good thing is our bill here in Colorado, it takes place in 2028, so it's another year after the California law, so they can see if there's any issues with it. But nonetheless, folks, bad bill. We need to stop this in its infancy. We need to stop it now. And absolutely and utterly insane, folks, that this idea that our state government has the hubris, has the arrogance, thinks they have the authority to say that computing software has to get your identification information. You have to give it your age. And folks, if you want to listen to that Senate committee where this bill got voted on previously, you are going to hear some of the most insane testimony you've ever heard, because you're going to hear people, these ladies who are saying, no, this bill doesn't go far enough. This bill doesn't go far enough. We need to have a digital ID. We need to have digital ID because these poor kids are getting on social media and getting drugs and getting hurt and doing all these bad things. We need digital ID. And folks, there's going to be people in this committee hearing. Your mind is going to be like, this is insane. There's going to be people here. You're going to hear them, people in support of this bill or people who are opposed to this bill because it doesn't go far enough. We need to show up. We need to make an impact. We need to make this the most controversial bill going through our state legislature. This is all hands on deck, folks. April 23rd in the House Business Affairs Committee, 1:30 p.m. I am definitely going to be testifying against this bill. This is a good one to hold people accountable and push back. You can see some of the votes in the previous votes in the past. So this bill passed on a 5-0 vote out of its first committee in the Senate. And then you got to think, here's the voting record in the state Senate, folks. So we actually had 7 people vote against this bill, including Mark Baisley, who's running for U.S. Senate. Mark Baisley is the most pro-liberty senator we have. You had Judy Amabile, terrible legislator from Boulder. She actually voted against it. Lisa Cutter voted against it. You had Chris Kolker vote against it, and you actually had Janice Marshman vote against it, Janice Rich vote against it, and Zamora Wilson, Linda Zamora Wilson, the newest pro-liberty senator we have. She's doing a phenomenal job. She actually voted against this bill. But you can see everybody else, including a lot of Republicans, the Peltons, um, vote for this bill. They voted for this bill, and you can see even one here who's running for governor as well. Barb Kirkmeyer voted for this bill, and Lisa Frizzell. They see no problem with this idea of the government requiring computing companies to get your age in order for you to use a computer. Bad news, folks. Bad news. So all hands on deck, folks. Let's fight this one. This is one that's worth showing up for. We've seen Democrats vote against this bill in the Senate. We've seen Republicans vote against this bill in the Senate. With enough public outcry, we can create enough controversy in the House that they just might let this bill die and just say, hey, listen, let's deal with it next year. We have so many other bills to deal with, so many other legislation we want to focus on. We don't need all the negative publicity. We don't need all the stress of this. That's our best hope here, folks, and we can really do it. Really do it, folks, 100%. So we got to push this. This is its first committee hearing in the House. It already passed the Senate. It's got to go through the House committee, and then it's going to the House floor. So there's 2 opportunities there. And then last worst case scenario, we ask the governor to veto it. But let's hope we can stop this bill. Horrible, horrible stuff. Senate Bill 51, folks, is one of the worst bills we've seen this year. So check it out. Really encourage people to vote against him. Just checking out the chat here real quick. Yeah, parents need to be responsible for this, not the government. It's totally Orwellian. The bill needs a big no. Heck no. Yeah, this bill is dangerous. 1984 stuff. All of it. All of it stuff. So all of it, bad stuff for sure, folks. Your retina, fingerprint, DNA tells us you're not old enough. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and new Patriot, I say, bring it up to Barb Kirkmeyer. I think it's worth getting it out there because if she feels negative pressure from people on her governor's campaign about this, it's really going to make the other Republicans in the House say, "Oh, I don't want that pressure." I think Scott Bottoms will vote the right way on this one, but maybe he won't. We got to put pressure on him, folks. You can't trust any of them. Put pressure on them. It's all about policy. It's all about policy. So, folks, really encourage you, all hands on deck against Senate Bill 51. Reach out to the committee members. Reach out to the House of Business Affairs committee members. You can send them an email tonight or tomorrow. Then you can also testify. Reach out ahead of time. Let them know that there's problems with this. Let them know that this is a bill that's controversial, that there's problems with. That's our best bet here, folks. So, good stuff, dangerous stuff for sure. Now, this bill, folks, my goodness, you've heard this one in the news. It is ridiculous. It's not as much of a threat to our freedom and liberty and our digital independence as the last bill, but it is nonetheless an authoritarian piece of legislation that just riles me up, gets under my skin. Folks, I hate the fact that we can't get plastic bags at the grocery store. I hate that. I don't take reusable shopping bags. They just don't seem to have them in my car. I hate this. So guess what? Our wonderful legislators, these benevolent overlords who want to control every aspect of our lives, they don't think we should have single-use food serviceware distributed to us. So you go to Santiago's and they give you the little plastic bag with the fork and the knife and the napkin and the salt and the pepper. They don't like that idea. These little authoritarian legislators have nothing better to do except say the people of Colorado don't deserve to have silverware. That's what they're saying here, folks. If you want, I mean, this is like proof that they're trying to turn Colorado into a prison. This is something you do to prisoners and say prisoners can't get forks, they can only get spoons or whatever. You know what I mean? It's basically the same kind of thing here, folks. Senate Bill 146, this is embarrassing. Under current law, the Plastic Pollution Reduction Act, oh gosh, includes restrictions on the use and distribution of single-use plastic carryout bags and expanded poly whatever food containers. Yeah, oh, makes me so mad. This bill expands the Pollution Reduction Act by prohibiting on and after January 1st, 2027, a retail food establishment or third-party food delivery service from providing single-use food serviceware to a customer unless the customer requests single-use food serviceware or confirms that the customer wants single-use food serviceware when offered. The bill specifies certain exemptions. So of course, all you got to do is put the little click box on the website. Yes, I want the silverware or whatever, and they give it to you. Fine. But folks, they shouldn't be doing this. Our legislators should have no right to do this. I want to testify in this one and show up at the committee hearing and just rail against them and just tell these people how sad and how disgusting this is. The Department of Public Health and Environment is required to, on or before January 1st, 2027, establish a page on the department's public website that includes a description of the requirements set forth in this bill, an existing enforcement mechanism included in the Plastic Pollution Reduction Act. Meg Frog Lips here is one of the worst we have. Lisa Cutter, who's the prostitution lady, sponsoring that bill. Horrible, horrible stuff, folks. A bad bill. Really want to see people testify on this one. Let's give them hell, folks. Show up, testify, speak against it, and just rail against them. I'm going to bring up the plastic bags. I'm going to bring this up and just tell them, just trash them. Just these people are disgusting, and it's absolutely insane. This is not the proper role of government. If they have enough time and ability to put bills like this forward, we have too much time in the legislature. We have too many legislators. We have too many bills. If this should be such a non-priority that we shouldn't even be dealing with this, right? I mean, this bill right here is an example of just how bloated, how overbearing, and how big our government has become, where they're regulating our use of plastic freaking spoons. Absolutely insulting to the dignity of free people. And I can't speak in more strongly words than that, folks, but horrible, horrible stuff. Check it out. Yes, do as much testimony as you can. Show the hypocrisy, rail against them, make them feel the pressure, embarrass them publicly for doing this because it is worthy of embarrassment. These people are not serious people. They don't deserve your respect, and you owe nothing to these people who are holding your future hostage. You owe nothing to these people. So don't worry about that. That's what we got this week, folks. My goodness, my goodness. A lot going on. Some of the worst bills we've ever seen. A couple good things to focus on. I thought that so I'm going to give you some updates here on the biggest bills of the year. Of course, without a co-host, Michael Vance is taking the night off. We're probably gonna get done a little bit faster than before, but we got the big Bugs Bunny there, giving us some updates here on the biggest bills of the year. So these are bills that aren't being heard this week. I try to exclude all those bills, but bills maybe you've heard about on the news, bills we've talked about in previous weeks, and you might be like saying, "Oh, what happened to that bill? Did that bill get passed? Did that already pass the legislature? Oh, did that bill fail? Is it done for the year?" Or are we still waiting to hear this bill in committee? So these are some of the biggest bills I've been tracking all year long. So let's check it out here. A good bill, Senate Bill 1037. This is the Fourth Amendment is Not for Sale Act. Wonderful bill, fantastic bill. We need this bill to pass. This is another going to be another all hands on deck situation. We need to put so much pressure on Republicans on this one because Republicans are going to say they're hearing from law enforcement, they're hearing from the DAs who say no. We want to be able to go buy people's data so we can run our own investigations outside of the Fourth Amendment. That's what's happening right now. That's why they oppose 1037. That's why this bill is being delayed. It already went through committee hearing for discussion. It's going to be voted on. We don't have a date yet. We do not have a date yet. They're required to give us at least 2 days' notice. Don't be surprised, folks. Follow Free State Colorado on X, particularly, and on Facebook. As soon as this gets a date, I'm going to pop it up, and we got to be reaching out. We got to be making phone calls. We got to clog up their voicemail systems, their emails. They need to hear from the people of Colorado why our digital privacy should be respected, why our government and our law enforcement should not be able to circumvent the Fourth Amendment, and we need to make some serious noise on this one, folks. I got to tell you, if any Republican votes against this bill, they're going to hear about it. I'll tell you that much right now. So, no date yet on one of the best bills we've seen, House Bill 1037, another Ken DeGraff bill. Senate Bill 71 from Senator Linda Zamora Wilson, LZW, as she's become known there. This bill did get discussed and then they laid it over. So it is on the calendar for a week from tomorrow, April 27th. I'll keep an eye on it, folks. If it comes up, I'm going to let you know because this is something I really want to get people. Another one, we got to reach out to the committee members and really push this one through. There's a great opportunity to restrict and put guardrails around the use of surveillance technology by law enforcement. Because, folks, I don't know about you, but I'm seeing these flock cameras pop up everywhere. There's AI license plate readers everywhere, facial recognition software, drones flying around. It's not going to a good place unless we, the people, decide to restrict the government's ability to do this, to spy on us. So Senate Bill 71, great bill. It was laid over. So it's already been discussed. Debate's already happened. They're just going to vote on it. So we'll keep an eye on that one. I'll let you know. The other great bill from LZW, Linda Zamora Wilson, Senate Bill 70, kind of the companion bill, did pass out of the Senate Judiciary Committee, which was great, and now is going over to Senate Appropriations. Supposed to be voted on in Appropriations on Tuesday. We'll keep an eye on that. I'll let you know what happens. Don't usually talk too much about appropriations, but I'll keep an eye and let you know how that one goes. Senate Bill or House Bill 1048. This is the back to school sales tax holiday. Gosh, I'd love to see sales tax holidays make a huge appearance in Colorado. How great would that be? And what a greater way to say this. Come on, you're going back to your kids are going back to school. Let's have one weekend a year where there's no sales tax on stuff for back to school stuff. That's great. Wonderful. It's a good start. Less taxes overall, good stuff. But I love getting the idea in people's heads that like, oh yeah, we should repeal sales taxes for reasons. Hey, why not repeal all sales tax? Why not repeal all sales tax on food? You know, this is kind of that camel's nose under the tent bill for me. So House Bill 1048 did pass the House Committee on Finance. It's sitting over in appropriations. There's no date yet there. Senate Bill 22, a bill that kind of like really lightly pushes back on these ridiculous 2030 emissions reduction goals, folks. If you don't know, our state government, the PUC, our Public Utilities Commission, basically has said that, yeah, you know, by 2040, we got to basically eliminate a 100% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, 100% reduction. Insanity. So there's also 2030 emissions reduction goals that aren't quite as extreme, but they kind of move us in that direction. This bill very lightly pushes back on that. So it's a good bill. Has been just delayed. The Democrats are not excited about this one, so they've just been letting it sit, not scheduled. I'll keep you updated on Senate Bill 22. Another good bill, House Bill 1140. Now, this has been going through the House. It's been on the House calendar every week for like the last 2, 3 weeks. They haven't voted on it yet. It did pass its first committee in the House. This is local government impact hearings. It's a good bill. That's going to get more input from local governments about legislation going through our state government, our state assembly. So good stuff. We'll see how this one shakes out, but I think this one's going to has a really good likelihood of passing. Senate Bill 108, fascinating because this bill was introduced back in February and the Democrats have not scheduled it. They have not touched this bill. They're just letting it sit and float out there. Transparency of legislative groups' money. This bill specifically is about this whole opportunity caucus debacle. If you guys haven't been following that, it's one of the biggest divides in the Democratic Party in our state legislature right now because there's this a group called the Opportunity Caucus, which are they think of themselves as the more business friendly, moderate Democrats. You know, you and I would probably say, no, we don't, you're still too crazy, right? You're still going too far. But they see themselves that way. So they're not the socialist types, but they have their own retreats and their own caucus. And they had lobbyists pay for this expensive Vail retreat, $25,000 they spent, and the big business interests got access to these legislators. And it caused this huge rift in the Democratic Party because not all the Democrats were invited because the far left socialists, they said, no, we don't want you here. You know, you're not part of our little group here. So they sponsored a bill. So you got Weissman, Doherty, Zokai, and Camacho sponsoring this bill to basically say, well, here's what we're going to do to solve this problem. And we're, see, look at us. Democrats have not scheduled this bill at all. So it's very interesting. I'm paying really close attention to Senate Bill 108 because I want to see kind of that split on the Democratic Party. That's why that bill is interesting. Senate Bill 91, exclusion of newspaper deliverers as employees. Yeah, you know, folks, if you have a business, having an employee, employees are the biggest cost of every business, especially in Colorado with all the ridiculous things you have to pay for, all the costs associated with having employees, the taxes, what have you. So this bill says, hey, if you're a newspaper deliverer, then you're not actually an employee. You could just be like a 1099 contractor type and get paid whatever and go do these things. So, hey, maybe we'll see more newspaper delivery make a comeback for the lack of for the little bit of newspapers that are still out there if this bill passes. So good bill, doesn't do a whole lot for our liberty, but it still moves us in the right direction. Senate Bill 91. It did pass out of the Senate Committee on Business, Labor, and Technology. It's over Senate Appropriations right now. So it's making its way through the process. We'll keep an eye on this one. Senate Bill 90. Now, I know the whole right to repair thing, there's a ton of controversy there about right to repair. I think this is probably a good bill. Exempting critical infrastructure from the right to repair, the Consumer Bill of Repair Bill of Rights Act did pass out of the Senate, is going to the House, has not been assigned to a House committee yet. So this bill says, well, if it's critical infrastructure, if it's like, you know, running a power plant or something, then yeah, you don't necessarily have to have all of your information out there for people and this and that. So you know, I think it's a good bill, but I can understand why people might not. So bad bills. Now, of course, this list is a lot longer. Those are just some of the good bills. I didn't include anything that was being heard this week in on the calendar. But let's look at some of the bad bills. No, gosh, oh, it hurts me, pains my heart. But the Colorado Cottage Foods Act here, the Tamale Act, House Bill 1033, is a disaster of a bill, and it's the perfect case study of how a good bill can go bad, right? This was a great bill initially when Representative Gonzalez introduced it. And unfortunately, it was amended because county health departments and all these little special interests came in and tore the bill apart and said, no, we want registration. No, we want new restrictions. No, we want more government involvement in the cottage food industry. So this bill is actually doing the opposite of it. Now this bill is decreasing our freedom. It's actually hurting our cottage food industry in Colorado if it passes. So this bill did make it out of its first committee, the House Agriculture, Natural and Water and Natural Resources Committee, and it's sitting in House Appropriations right now. So I'm keeping a close eye on this one, folks. I'm going to be testifying against this bill and exposing this one because it's gotten really bad. So I'll keep you updated. I'll definitely keep you updated on this one. You may have seen this one in the news recently. This one was heard in committee this last week, made a lot of headlines. We had a lot of people on social media talking about House Bill 1281. This is the homicide criminal offenses, basically making it harder for you to be making it more difficult, or the threshold for first degree murder is a higher threshold at this point, basically. So it makes it harder for somebody who, you know, committed the act of homicide to be charged with first degree murder. They're just going to be charged with second degree. So this is a total pro crime bill that makes it less likely that somebody will be charged on first degree murder. Like literally that's the purpose of this bill, is to say Colorado's too strict in terms of charging people with first degree murder. It should be second degree. We're only going to charge people for first degree murder if it includes multiple people or these other circumstances. It's a horrible bill, folks. Nobody wants to see people who are convicted of homicide get lesser charges. Are you kidding me? So this bill did make it out of committee this last week, unfortunately, but it's getting some headlines. People are waking up to this one. It's supposed to be heard on the House floor this week. We'll see. Usually seconds aren't necessarily read on Monday, so this is going through second reading. It's scheduled for tomorrow on 420, but we'll see. But expect it probably to be heard sometime this week. I really think we're going to have some great speeches by the Republicans Republicans pushing back on this bill. So I'm excited for that. And that's something we can make clips on and really get out there because this is something we got to get this information out to people. I mean, this is one of those issues where like you're talking to your coworker, your neighbor, your family member, whoever, and you're like, oh my gosh, did you see what they're doing? The Democrats in the legislature just passed a bill making it harder to charge people with first degree homicide and like letting people who have literally been convicted of murder get a lesser charge. Be like, what? Yeah, insane. So this is one of those bills that's really important that people become aware of, House Bill 1281. So I'm looking forward to the discussion on the House floor on this one because we can use that to get more information out to people by making video clips and really expanding that conversation. House Bill 1322, the civil actions for conversion therapy survivors. My goodness. This bill also made some national headlines. Of course, it was just days after the U.S., I think it was Child's decision, if I'm not mistaken, where Colorado got slapped down by the Supreme Court over the whole conversion therapy thing, saying it's against the First Amendment. So this bill did pass the House on third reading and is on to the Senate. We'll see. The Senate can maybe be a little bit more moderate on things like this, so we'll see what happens, but it's not scheduled yet in a Senate committee. I will let you know when that happens. So interesting stuff there for sure. Update here on House Bill 1071. My goodness, I hate this bill. This is allowing local governments to place more cameras via vehicle identification systems on state interstate highways. So now you're seeing more and more cameras popping up all over. Of course, a lot of it's for revenue collection. This is basically saying interstate highways. Let's have, yeah, sure, have your little city in your town and whoever start putting some cameras up around there. Now, don't get me wrong, I want to see criminals be held accountable, but folks, I have serious concerns about the surveillance state that's being built around us. So I don't like this bill. It did already pass that out of the House. It did pass out of the Senate committee, and it keeps getting delayed. It's been on the Senate calendar for a while now. I see it every day pop up there, and they keep pushing it back and pushing it back. So that's a good sign, but we can reach out to our senators, tell them why House Bill 1071 is a bad bill. So keep an eye on it, folks. Senate Bill 147, very interesting bill. This is one that Rocky Mountain gun owners alerted a lot of us to, but really saying, hey, listen, what they consider a lobbyist, it could just be a citizen, right? You're a lobbyist because you're just an individual going down there with a group of other people that you organize to talk to legislators. Well, they were going to have a registration component with this bill, and it was going to really chill free speech for the individual to actually participate in our process by going down and talking to legislators. This bill did get amended, so I think some of the worst of it was removed. I'll have to dig back into it. I'll keep an eye on it. It's going through appropriations this week. It's supposed to, at least on the Senate side, then it moves to the House. So there's still an opportunity for this bill to be stopped or amended or more, at least get some more public input on it. So we'll keep an eye on this one as well, folks. Senate Bill 87. Oh gosh, folks, you may have seen this one. I was going crazy on this one. Create legislative leave job protection for General Assembly members. So this bill wants to give special privileges to people who are legislators in our state government by saying, oh yeah, can work in the legislature and you're basically guaranteed your job back with the same pay. So you work for a small business, imagine that. You say, okay, I'm going to go serve in the legislature from January till May. You have to hold my position open for me with all the same benefits, with the same pay, with all these things. What are you going to do without me for 4 months, 5 months? I don't know. Not my problem. You, Mr. Small Business Owner, have to figure that out. So, bad bill giving special privileges to people who are serving in our state government. Thankfully, we do have Representative Brandy Bradley. She sponsored an amendment to this bill that got approved. This bill did get amended by Representative Brandy Bradley. She got buy-in from the rest of the legislators, who I think they saw that there's like problems with this bill, the optics idea, right? And they supported it. So this bill now, with Representative Bradley's amendment, says that the employers can opt out. So employers can opt out and say, hey, listen, we're not going to participate in this legislative leave program. We just don't want to be a part of it. So it's totally optional. So it kind of makes the bill useless because the idea of the bill was already like, why can't a business already do this, right? Why does an employer need special legislation to do this? If they want to do this, they should be able to, they could at any time, right? There's no need for statute to allow businesses to do this. So the bill's basically been weakened, neutered, if you will. But now it goes to House consideration of adherence, right? So this was a Senate bill, made it out of the Senate, went to the House, was amended in the House, and then the House and the Senate have to agree to the amendments. So we'll see what happens, folks. We'll see if the Senate and the House can come to an agreement, hopefully over that with that Brandley amendment still intact. If not, I really want to push Jared Polis to veto this one because it's ridiculous to think that our state politicians, these legislators, should have special privileges that the rest of the people of Colorado don't. So very interesting stuff there. Moving on here, update here on another bad bill, Senate Bill 150. This is the Modernizing RTD, the Regional Transportation District. This is an anti-democratic bill, anti-democracy bill, because it reduces the amount of RTD board members that we can vote on. So it's less input from the public, less choice from the public, and more appointees from the governor and from other government places. So you may have seen the Independence Institute did some posts on this one with the Democrats who voted yes on this bill. They put him next to Trump with an AI image, saying, "Yeah, look at them, they're anti-democracy." And it was really just to get under the skin of the Democrats, right? To say like, "Look at you, Lisa Cutter, you're on the same side as Trump on this. You don't like him, and you're doing whatever." But that was kind of they're just trolling them basically. But bad bill, Senate Bill 150. We'll see. It's supposed to be going through the Senate floor on second reading this week, so we'll see. It should be some interesting debate. And yeah, we'll see what happens with this one. But RTD should just be abolished, if you ask me. Senate Bill 5, this is the rights violation and immigration enforcement remedy. So doubling down on Colorado sanctuary state status. This bill, I didn't cover it this week because we've talked about it plenty of other times. It already passed the Senate. It's going to be in House Judiciary on Wednesday, April 22nd. So keep an eye on that one. If you're interested in the immigration arguments or issue, pay attention this Wednesday, April 22nd in the House Judiciary Committee at 1:30 p.m. Senate Bill 5 is going to be discussed. Senate Bill 116, property tax modifications. This one did pass last year, basically allowing last week, excuse me, this passed last week, allowing municipalities to create a new lodging tax. That's right, more taxes. Absolutely ridiculous. Bad bill because of that, right? We got to oppose anything that's going to create new taxes. That's Senate Bill 116. So it did pass out of the Senate Finance Committee this last week and is now sitting over in appropriations, but still got to go through the whole House, folks. So as I said, the calendar is our best friend right now. We got to drive out the clock here. Another bad one. This is also on our immigration, protect safety of individuals who are immigrants, of course, right, at the expense of everybody else. House Bill 1276. I did make it out of the House Committee on Finance. It's over sitting in appropriations right now. So another sanctuary state bill. My goodness. This one is a scary bill. Did make it out of House committee, is now going to be on the House floor sometime, maybe this week. So I'm really interested to hear the debate on this one. I think any Republicans who vote for this need to be held accountable. Of course, Democrats as well, don't get me wrong. But House Bill 1255 is social media duty to report, basically turning social media companies into agents of the state. Or if somebody reports you for a violation, so somebody clicks on your post and says this person is breaking the law, that social media company will be legally required, folks, legally required to investigate that and turn you over to law enforcement immediately. So, you can see the potential for this one because especially with all of Colorado's onerous laws, like, oh, what if you misgendered somebody? Oh, what if you talked about I'm driving up to Wyoming to buy a 30-round magazine for my AR? You post on social media, somebody reports you, they have to turn it into the police. That's where this bill would do, folks. That's what this bill would do. Bad bill, House Bill 1255. We need to stand up against this one as well. Then there's this package of three bills, 1221, 1222, and 1223, basically decoupling Colorado's tax law with federal tax law. So basically, because the big beautiful bill did create some tax reductions for businesses and employers, good stuff. Colorado does not want to go along with that. So they have this package of bills that's going to change Colorado tax code. It's basically, these are massive tax increase bills, folks. 1221, 1222, and 1223. They made it out of their first House committee, Committee on Finance, and are sitting in appropriations right now. Be talking about these more as it goes through, but these are horrible, horrible bills, that's for sure. House Bill 1054, OSHA on steroids, basically saying, hey, because the federal government's kind of weakening OSHA, we need to strengthen those types of things here in Colorado. That's the whole idea behind this bill from Andy Rootnell. Anti-business bill, 100%. Did make it out of the House Committee on Business Affairs and is sitting in appropriations currently. Keep you updated on that one. Folks, I checked every single one of these earlier today, so this is the most up-to-date information about all of these bills. House Bill 1053, the Transportation Network Company Discriminatory Practices. Folks, if you're in rideshare, if you're a rideshare person, you need to look into House Bill 1043 because now all of a sudden, as a rideshare driver, they might be coming after you for discrimination. They might say, oh, this guy, I didn't like that driver. He was discriminating against me. And it's going to create all these new systems for reporting and this and that, make you liable as an individual driver. It's bad news, folks. House Bill 1043, it did pass on the House Committee of Finance and it's sitting in appropriations right now. I'll keep you updated on this one. House Bill 1005, this is the forced unionization bill, removing the requirement for a second vote, which Colorado currently has under the Labor Peace Act. Bad bill. Jared Polis already said he's going to veto this bill. Got to give him credit where credit's due. Unfortunately, Michael Bennett or Phil Weiser would 100% support this. They've already said so. So we'll see if they decide just to let this bill fail or fall this year and just leave it on the calendar, or if they pass it and Polis ends up vetoing it. But yeah, bad bill. More unions, folks. Those union dues go to Democrat political campaigns. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's the reality of what we're facing right now. So bad bill. WP Will says red flagging social media posts is already required, right? So this is a massive expansion for the Cucurado CBI. Basically, I mean, it would create this duty to report. So now all of a sudden, these social media companies are under penalty of law. They're going to be threatened with fines by our attorney general, which God forbid it's Jenna Griswold looking at social media companies saying, you didn't report this person for talking about violating some law. We're going to come after you and fine you now. So it sets up a really bad position there to answer your question there. Yes, Fly Pilot Explorer, these guys want to legislate every aspect of our lives. Killiam says tyrannical nanny state. Couldn't agree more, folks. This bill, House Bill 1113, modifications to elections. It's such a complicated bill. It did pass out of the House. It is sitting over on the Senate Appropriations Committee currently. Voter transparency and ballot measures. This is House Bill 1084. This bill is in response to a ballot measure that Advanced Colorado put on the ballot in 2024, which basically said that money has to go to law enforcement for their fund for fallen officers, creating this program where it says we got to give this money to people who are grant program and this and that for spouses and this and that if they're people die in the line of duty. The Democratic legislators are so mad at that because they say you're telling us where to spend. You're telling us that we got to spend all this money, but you're not telling us where the money's coming from, and that you should have to do that. So they're saying voter transparency and ballot measures, quote unquote, is going to require the ballot title to say where the money's going to come from. And of course, it's all going to be politically charged, misleading. The idea here is they're trying to make it harder for us as citizens to have a voice in our ability to get ballot measures on. So bad bill, House Bill 1084 did pass out of the House, passed out of the Senate, and now this Monday it's supposed to go through the House consideration of Senate amendments. So there's an opportunity there for some of the Republican legislators to speak against this bill, raise some more awareness about it. But yeah, this bill's kind of in the home stretch, unfortunately. House Bill 1210, the prohibits surveillance, price, and wage setting. Whatever, not don't have that many strong feelings about this bill. It did pass the House, is over in the Senate. Disclosure of demographic workforce data, such a bad bill. House Bill 1207 did pass the House, is going to be heard this Thursday in the Senate Business, Labor, and Technology Committee. I didn't bring it up because I felt like we had enough to talk about. But basically, this is going to require employers to get all your demographic workforce data. So it's like, whoa, let's get all your information about all your employers so we can make sure that everybody's following affirmative action type laws and stuff. And you got to report to the state government about all these details about the people who are working for you so we make sure you're not discriminating. That's the idea behind this, folks. It's Soviet style ridiculousness, authoritarianism, bad bill, so stupid. House Bill 1207 being heard this Thursday in the Senate Business and Technology Committee. Oh my gosh, folks, this bill is one that I am freaking out on social media. House Bill 1206. This is the bill that I was really upset about because I saw Representative Ryan Gonzalez added himself as a prime sponsor to a Democratic bill. Absolutely ridiculous, folks. And the idea here is that this bill is going to help affordable housing. But you know what it's going to do, folks? It's going to allow for new taxes. This bill allows for new taxes to be placed on the ballot so that there can be new housing authorities that are going to collect taxes from us so they can fund affordable housing. Now, this bill did pass out of the House Committee on Finance, is going over to appropriations, so it's still got a long ways to go, but we got to raise some awareness on 1206. A lot of people know about House Bill 1001. That's the idea of forcing affordable housing and high density housing on communities that don't necessarily want it. House Bill 1001 is the signature piece of legislation that Jared Polis signed this year saying, hey, we're going to give these housing authorities the ability to build high density housing in local communities without approval of the city council. So they won't, instead of having the city government and county government having to give approval to say, is this really a good fit for our community? The state government's going to override that decision and instead say you have to allow housing authorities and nonprofits to build high density housing. And then House Bill 1206 is the funding mechanism for that. You read those two bills together and you see the grand picture. So horrible, horrible bill needs to be opposed. No Republican in their right mind should be supporting House Bill 1206. That's for sure. House Bill 42, revenue classification for the Taxpayers Bill of Rights. I mean, it's not the worst bill we've ever seen, but they want to basically say, some of this money that the government collects, it shouldn't be under TABOR because of blah blah blah. So it's a bad bill for sure. It is going to Senate Appropriations, supposed to be there on Tuesday. So we'll keep an eye out for that one when it makes it over to the House. This bill, sports betting protections, gosh, this was a very interesting bill. I listened to the entire committee hearing. It was very interesting. There was a podcaster who testified in favor of this bill because he was addicted to sports gambling and he had all these stories about it. It was really interesting. And then it was interesting because this committee hearing, like, is literally like MGM Grand and like sports king, whatever, DraftKings sports people were all testifying and they're in their offices in Las Vegas with all the sports like memorabilia on the walls and they're testifying against this bill, talking about why it's bad and this and that. It was really interesting to like hear all these people zoom in from across the country who are their companies, let's say for real, their companies are making millions of dollars off sports betting here in Colorado. But hey, the voters of Colorado approve sports betting. The people of Colorado 100% support the idea of sports betting. So for our state government to come in and put new regulations, new restrictions on it after voters have already approved it on the ballot, I think is irresponsible and wrong. I'm not a sports betting guy myself. I think it's not a good idea. It's a waste of money. The House always wins. These companies are making millions and millions of dollars off the people of Colorado, and people are put in bad financial situations because they're just gambling their money away. But hey, that's their right. I'm a libertarian. That's their right. Senate Bill 131 from Senator Ball, Senator Byron Pelton, Senator Woodrow, and Representative Dan Woog. Bad bill. It did pass that finance committee barely. It barely passed that finance committee. It is going to make it over to appropriations. Part of the reason this bill almost failed was because it has new advertising requirements. So it says like you can't advertise, sports betting between these hours or in these certain circumstances. And these people were testifying on the bill. They're like, hey, listen, I work for this TV company here in Colorado. Like this is coming from national feed. We can't just shut off the CBS feed coming in during the Super Bowl and say you can't air a sports betting commercial during this time. You know what I mean? That it can only be certain times or this or that. So it's like it's going to complicate things. So we'll see what happens with that bill. But I'll keep you updated on Senate Bill 131. I think it's a bad bill for sure. Talking about dangerous freedom, right? Over the illusion of security. House Bill 1055. My goodness, this just type of bill is so stupid, so stupid. Mandy Lindsay thinks she's so great because she's giving all these kids. So everybody who's in grades 6 through 12 will get a special My Colorado card that we're all paying for, the taxpayers pay for, and they can go to the museum, and they can go to the rec center, and they can go to cultural places and not have to pay anything because everybody else around us is paying for it. No, no, not the proper role of government whatsoever. It's just wealth redistribution. It's socially engineering society. House Bill 1055 shouldn't exist whatsoever. It did pass out of the House Committee on Education and is sitting over in appropriations. I'll keep you updated on this one because I think this is one people need to be a little bit more aware of for sure. Oh gosh, Senate Bill 135. I testified against this bill. This is the bill that would totally eliminate our TABOR refunds for the rest of our lives and give to our state government. Supposedly it'd go into education, but further reading of the bill, Complete Colorado Independence Institute had an article on this bill just this last week talking about how actually, if you're really reading through the bill, there's really not a requirement they have to spend any of this money in education. They can just steal our taxpayers' Bill of Rights TABOR refunds, use it for whatever they want. Horrible, horrible bill. Senate Bill 135 needs to be opposed. Made it out of its first Senate committee, is going to the Senate floor. We got to this is another all hands on deck situation. Now, with this one, folks, even if it passes out of the Senate and the House, it creates a ballot measure. So we can still fight this one in November. So this is a long fight. This is a long fight. This is when we got to get ahead of now, start talking about getting it out there, get those articles, get those clips, get people talking about it. Because if it does make it through the House and the Senate, it'll just end up on the ballot. It does not require the governor's signature to get on the ballot because it's a ballot measure. It just has to go through the Senate and the House. So we just got to push back, get some talking points, really show how onerous this is, and then eventually do what we can to stop it. Moving on to House Bill 1289, modification of certain tax expenditures. Again, this is a bill that basically is going to increase taxes on businesses and employers here in Colorado. Now, I got to point out they did remove the precious metals in gold bullion, silver bullion part of this bill. This bill was going to say that coins and precious metals and bullion would be taxed. They did remove that part of the bill. So it just goes to show you, folks, enough outcry. There were so many people upset about this. and so many people that are pushing back on it that the Democrats removed it from the bill. They amended it out of the bill. You even had the committee. Weissman, I think, was at there. No, he was. It must not have been him because it's in the House. But whoever was on the committee, I think it might have been Woodrow. But he announced right away. He's like, "I before you come up here to testify, just before we even get started, just know everybody know we removed that precious metals part of the bill." And like literally, like 90% of the people left to testify on this bill. He's like, "I just want to let everybody know right away. This is amended out of it, so you don't have to waste your time." So it just goes to show you, folks, how big it is there. Somebody says any word on House Bill 1212? Not to interrupt our regular program here, but is that the Concari? Yeah, Concari did fail, folks. Is that Ken Meek there? House Bill 1212, constitutional carry of a handgun. Unfortunately, of course, and I hate to say it, but that's the reality of it. It was lost. Did get postponed indefinitely um, on a vote of 4-7. That's the Democrats there with the majority. So we got to take back that majority and get that passed. Moving forward here, House Bill 1065 did pass out of House Finance. It's in appropriations right now. This is transit housing investment zones. So this is basically another one of those top-down policies from our state government trying to override local control to create their little 15-minute cities, create their whole mass transit corridors and high-density housing surrounding it. So it's totally social engineering society in a way that most people do not want. Most people don't want that. Most people don't want this high-density house. We want to have property. We want to have land. We want to be able to grow food like people are talking about in the chat, right? We want to see the blue sky. We want to have parks. We want to be able to walk our dogs. We don't want to be stuck in high density housing. Sure, that's fine. High density apartments, this and that. Maybe it's necessary for people at that stage in their life, but the American dream is to own a house and have some land, folks. This bill incentivizes the wrong things. Bad, bad bill. Senate Bill 134. I need to dig more into this one, but this is the one you've probably seen commercials on. I know I saw some commercials on YouTube about it, about the credit card fees, where it says you might have to have two separate transactions where you have credit card fees because the way the credit card companies won't be able to charge a fee on taxes or this and that, so it might change things. You got to pay cash for the taxes part and this and that. I don't know. Some of that's a little bit of scare tactics from what I can tell, but it's definitely going to cost these payment card companies money. And don't get me wrong, nobody has sympathy for the company where you swipe your credit card and they charge the business a fee. Very few people have sympathy for that. But ultimately, it's just going to increase the fees, right? If they're saying, okay, well, we can't collect the fee on taxes, we can only do it on this. How are we going to calculate that for one? We have to have this advanced computer system that's only going to calculate what that dollar amount is and not the tax amount and charge the fee on that. So, can we even accept taxes through our credit card readers? I get that. I get that might be a problem for some of these small credit card companies. They'll be breaking the law because they're like, well, we don't have the software capabilities to distinguish. And oftentimes you go to like one of these little liquor stores or someplace, folks, and they just type the dollar amount in their little credit card reader and swipe it, right? They don't type in like this much is cash, this much is the amount of the product, and this much is the amount of the tax. They just swipe your card for the whole thing, and there's a fee on that whole thing. So this bill is stupid. It just totally is unnecessary and is going to lead to problems. Senate Bill 134, I think it's one of the first ones in the country that they're trying this. There's like a website dedicated opposing this bill. Check it out. Senate Bill 26-134. Need to do a little bit more dive into this one, but it's causing enough controversy. It looks like this bill's getting delayed. So it's in the Senate right now, but it has not made it out of the Senate to go to the House yet. So we'll keep an eye on this one for sure. My goodness, folks. Senate Bill 43, the record keeping and regulation of sale of a firearm barrel. So this did pass out of the Senate and is waiting to be third reading in the House. So we probably will see this week, maybe as soon as Monday, April 20th. It might be as soon as tomorrow that the House is going to be voting on third reading, which is the recorded vote. So that's important to know who's going to vote for this in the House and who's not in an important election year, right? All 65 seats in the House are up for re-election this year. Got to pay attention, keep track of this one. Folks, on the Senate side, now, this should give you some hope. This should give you some hope out there, okay? On the Senate side, Senate Bill 43 passed with only 3 votes. Let me just pull it up for you real quick. Senate Bill 43, let's look at the vote total here. So obviously, you got a little grave dancer, Tom Sullivan, make frog lips, they, them, Kyle Brown. And Kyle Brown literally has like a they, them button he wears. You'll see it. You can actually see it on the cameras there. So check this out on the Senate side. 19-16. There you go, folks. 19-16. So 3 votes. 3 votes. So you got to think, folks, if we can flip even just 2 state Senate seats this year, 3 state Senate seats, it's realistic to flip 4 state Senate seats. Those vote totals are a lot less than the governor's race. Everybody's focused on the governor's race, but you're talking about Senate. I'm looking at my board over here. Senate District 3, Senate District 11, Senate District 15, Senate District 21. Those are like 1,000 votes, 1,500 votes. 1,800 votes, somewhere in that ballpark. That is way more doable than trying to flip 500,000 votes for the governor's race, right? 500,000 people voted for the Democrat than the Republican in the last governor's election. In these state Senate elections, it was 1,000 votes. So we could flip 3, 4 state Senate seats. And honestly, that would have stopped this bill. That would have stopped Senate Bill 43. Just understand that, folks, that there is hope. And it's like, okay, wow, we can actually, in one election year in 2026, fundamentally change the makeup of our state legislature to the point where this bill on regulating firearm barrels would not have passed. It wouldn't have passed with 1 or 2 votes difference, folks. 2 votes. That's all it would have taken. So that should give you a little bit of hope here. Now, it's interesting on the House side, they did a lot of amendments where they asked for a roll call vote, a division vote, so you can kind of see. So we know the bill's going to pass for sure, but this was a way to get people on the record to start putting some pressure on them. And you can see the yes versus the no's there. So we'll see this bill coming up this week. It's something we should definitely be asking Jared Polis to veto. Senate Bill 43. Keep an eye on that one. I'll be keeping you up to date there for sure, folks. So these are the bills that were passed already and sent to the governor, Governor Jared over there. Um, so I'll just go through these quickly. So House Bill 1302. This is the giving the Colorado Bureau of Investigation their own operating hours for conducting background checks. This is the bill that was so controversial that Anthony Hartsook had his name removed from the bill. One of the reasons he has a primary opponent this year with Bob Davis, great candidate. Hopefully he beats Anthony Hartsook in the primary. So 1302 did pass both the House and the Senate, is going to the governor's desk. Oh gosh, so sad on this one. House Bill 1126, the requirements for firearm dealers, absolutely insane. Now, this bill was amended heavily. So if you haven't seen the final version of this bill, check it out because there's a lot of stuff that was changed. It's a horrible, horrible bill. Don't get me wrong, but just to get the most accurate information, this bill did pass the House and the Senate just recently. Linda Zamora Wilson, state senator, did a phenomenal job of posting some clips on social media and really encouraging. It's the first time I've seen a state senator say, reach out to the governor, tell him to veto this bill. And that's great. I love seeing that. Linda Zamora Wilson has been one of our most pro liberty senators we've ever seen, who's actively telling the people of Colorado to reach out to our governor to veto bad bill. No other legislator does that. So it's good stuff that way. But yeah, horrible, horrible bill did pass. The 3D printing gun bill passed 1144. And if you don't remember, just to give you that quick update, Jared Polis actually had the legislators remove the distribution component from this bill. So the distribution of 3D printed firearm plans and stuff is no longer will not be illegal under this bill. Jared Polis said he was going to veto the whole bill unless they amended it out. Tom Sullivan was so angry, and they said he gutted the bill. That's his words. Sullivan said that Polis gutted the bill and basically made this bill meaningless because it doesn't really do anything then. But so, give credit where credit's due, folks. That's Jared Polis. So House Bill 1144 did pass, and I think Jared Polis did sign it. I did not check that. The legal protections for dignity of minors, Senate Bill 18. And I gotta say, it's just the reality of it, right? Don't get me wrong, I'm Jared Polis's biggest critic, but he actually had them remove the part of the bill where it said that parental rights are going to be determined whether you adhere to the transgender agenda of your kid. Jared Polis literally had them remove that out of the bill. And don't get me wrong, I'm not an apologist for the guy. Like if you know me, you know I criticize him every chance I get. But he actually had them remove that for the bill where it said that parental time and parental responsibilities and parental powers basically over your kid would be determined whether you agree with the gender expression or not. And Jared Polis had them remove that bill. Lorena Garcia was not happy about that. So the bill did pass, still a bad bill, don't get me wrong, but I just got to point that out because I know people were really worried about the original version of the bill. So at least it got amended a little bit. Don't get me wrong, don't want to see it pass at all. But if some of the worst stuff's taken out, at least we can acknowledge that, right? The transfers of certain pet animals, the stupid anti-pet store bill, House Bill 1011 did pass. House Bill 1253, a good bill from Representative Scott Slaw, freshman legislator, my state rep, Scott Slaw, disconnection from a statutory municipality, where you could have agricultural land basically say, hey, listen, we don't want to be part of that city anymore. We became part of that city, that municipality, and now we're going to remove ourselves. So, small good thing. Housing developments on qualifying properties. So this is that bill people should really look into if you want to see the whole high density housing agenda. House Bill 1001, basically saying that, hey, you, Mr. Local Government, you cannot stop a nonprofit or a housing authority from coming in there and building high density affordable housing in your community, even though it's going to cause a disaster for your community. You can't stop them. So that's that bill. The governor did sign it. He was all proud of that one, of course. Jared was proud of that. Horrible, horrible bill. Jared Polis also did sign the expansion of the red flag gun confiscation. Senate Bill 4, absolutely horrible stuff. Bad, bad bill is signed. Immunization access bill. Yep. House Bill 32 or Senate Bill 32. Governor signed that one. And then, hey, the little leprechaun guy. I copy these slides over every week and then just make updates. So he was there from our St. Patrick's Day stream, and when I copy everything over, he's just been sticking around. So there we go. So these are the failed bills, gone but not forgotten. Of course, the bad bills. Gosh, this protections for youth on social media. And folks, this is also like an optimistic thing. Like, look at some of these horrible bills that were introduced this year that failed. Like, that's important. These bills failed. This was Yarazoke's 5% tax on video game transactions. There's going to be in-game transactions that you make to buy like something in a video game. Your kids are playing a video game on Fortnite or whatever, and they're going to buy something. There's going to be a new 5% tax that would go into some stupid education fund that who knows would probably get redistributed to an NGO, I'm sure, right? Politically connected people. But this bill was stopped. They stopped it and they said, no, there's not salvaging this bill. We're just going to let it fail. So, there's some hope there, folks. Unfortunately, we talked about 1212, constitutional carry of a handgun did fail. The authorized local electronic ballot return bill failed, Senate Bill 119. This one's interesting, folks, because I listened to the committee hearing, I watched it, and there was people zooming in support of this bill from like these nonprofits and stuff who are like trying to get this idea of electronic voting. But there was also some nonprofits who came in who are like the pro voter integrity groups who are from like Washington, D.C., testifying against this bill, being like, there's no way you can actually make this safe and valid. And they stopped the bill. They killed the bill. Don't get me wrong. I think they're going to try and bring it back next year. But Senate Bill 119 for the local electronic ballot returns was stopped. So good news there. And this was great too. Oh wait, no, no, this is the other one. House Bill 1190, alcohol beverage manufacturer sales, would have basically made a little bit more for tasting rooms, given a little bit more opportunity there. Unfortunately, did fail. That was a good bill. House Bill 1275. Now, see here, this is a horrible immigration bill that failed. It was too complicated, and you actually had Cecilia Espinoza and Chad Clifford, the two pro law enforcement Democrats in that House committee, vote this bill down. The House Judiciary Committee, they stopped this bill. This bill testimony was wild, folks. You can actually hear law enforcement talk about like, hey, listen, you're going to require us as local law enforcement to arrest federal law enforcement if they're wearing masks or they're doing all these different things. Like, he's like, no, that's putting us in a horrible situation. That's not going to be good. It's not going to be good. You're going to have force on force situations between local and federal law enforcement, which of course, Yarazokai, Lorena Garcia, Monjode, they probably want to see that, right? They want to see our sanctuary state status defended at the point of a gun. But guys, this is the reality of it, folks. House Bill 1275 did fail. So that's good news, right? This is that one, enterprise. Gosh, this is horrible bill here. House Bill 1271, creating a new alcohol impact and recovery enterprise, basically charging a new tax and a fee on alcohol sales in Colorado to fund these recovery systems here. And there were so many people from the craft brewery, the craft distillery industry who testified against this bill. They killed this bill. The Democrats said, no, this bill is onerous. It's too much regulation. It's too much tax, too much fees. So I bring this up, folks. I want you to be aware of this because the situation we're in is more nuanced, right? There are some bad bills that failed because there is a recognition. It's unavoidable to recognize the idea that things are going too far, that the state government is taxing too much. There's too many fees. I'm going to put out a video probably tomorrow on this poll that just came out from the Colorado Polling Institute, where most Coloradans across party lines say that we're being taxed too much. And I think the legislators understand that as well. So, the situation is not hopeless, folks. It is not hopeless. And then, of course, we can see a great bill that did get failed. This get stopped was Senate Bill 111, Protections Against Child Rape. Representative Brandy Bradley, and for the last year, Regina English, a Democrat sponsor, they've been trying to get this bill to increase penalties for those convicted of raping a child. I mean, I hate even saying those words. It's so disgusting and so sickening. The Democrats voted it down. Democrats voted it down, folks. If you didn't hear, when this bill failed, the Democrats who voted against this bill, like there was a picture of them posted online, and those legislators were actually getting death threats because of it. Because people were like, "You voted against arresting more penalties for child rapists," to the point where leadership in the legislature was asking legislators, I believe they even asked Representative Brady Bradley, like, remove your post, because these people are getting death threats because of this. It's like nobody's saying anything that's not true. Nobody's saying anything that's not true. If people are that upset, these Democratic legislators for stopping this bill, That tells you something, folks. And this is a winning issue that we need to get out in front of the voters, right? This is one of those issues you need to, it's uncomfortable, but you got to talk to people about and be like, hey, listen, do you know that the Democrats in our state government stopped Senate Bill 111? Which would have increased the penalties requiring jail time for those convicted of sexual assault on a child. And the Democrat majority stopped that new policy from going through. Like if that doesn't wake people up, like that issue alone, folks, could sway 3 or 4 House races, state Senate races. We could see things change, but we got to be talking. We got to be getting this information out there. That's why I'm doing this. I know I said that already, but another bad bill that failed. Hey, here's your little bit of some hope here and some optimism. 1211. Tammy's story, nobody's buying her stories anymore. And Mabry, the guy who needs a dental plan, basically coming out and saying they wanted to regulate broadband services in Colorado, giving the Public Utilities Commission, the horrible politically charged PUC, control over our internet, more control. And people were like, nah, we don't need this bill. Let's stop it. And they stopped it. So that's good. That's good. House Bill 90, Senate Bill 97, this was the prostitution bill, the one that made international headlines, the first in the country to full decriminalize prostitution and even prevent local governments from stopping prostitution in their communities. This bill, they didn't even allow testimony on this bill. Literally, they said, "Okay, nope, this bill's done. We're not even going to have public testimony because we're just gonna stop this bill immediately. We're going to postpone it indefinitely. It's done. It's gone." Crazy stuff, that's for sure. Another bill that you could talk about to your neighbors and people. Oh my gosh, I was so glad to see this bill fail. And folks, this is Linda Zamora Wilson was one of the deciding votes on this bill, our new Republican state senator. Years past, the Republicans voted for this bill, but we have Linda Zamora Wilson who must be defended at all costs, who's actually standing up for our rights. She stood up for our Colorado Open Records Act, CORA, and stopped this bill that would have restricted our CORA abilities even more. So good thing that this bill was stopped. That is a huge thing, folks. Senate Bill 107 was stopped. House Bill 1125, parent penalties for minor using an electric bicycle. Don't get me wrong. I know there's issues out there. I know there's issues with the idea of these kids roaring around town on these e-bikes and this and that. But you know, if your kid's out there on an e-bike and he breaks the law because he's driving on a sidewalk or something like that, I don't necessarily think it's right that you go to the parents and you give the parents like a citation or a ticket. Like, is your kid's doing that? Like, don't get me wrong, you're the parent, you're responsible. But like because they're using an electric bicycle too wrong. I mean, it just reminds me of like in the 90s if they were like, yeah, kid's caught skateboarding. He's not supposed to be. The parents are gonna go get a ticket. Like, I don't know, think that's the right approach. That's all. So that's why I think House Bill 1125 was bad. And it failed. So I'm glad about that. This bill was insane, folks. House Bill 1012, Consumer Protections to Promote Fair Market Pricing. I testified against this bill. This committee hearing was wild because literally Yara Zokai thought it was a good idea to say, hey, you're at a sports stadium, you're charging too much, you're price gouging people. Those are captive consumers who don't have a choice. If they want to buy a beer at Ball Arena, they're going to have to pay what you charge them. And that's not right. You should have to charge them the same amount down at the street, down on some bar down the street. You should be forced to not overcharge them because they're a captive consumer. And it's like, okay, we all get that though. We all understand that if we go to a sporting event or a concert or whatever, like the prices might be a little more expensive than if we just went to the bar down the street, right? And there's reasons for that, right? Like if you go to the Rockies game, which I did recently. I went to a Rockies game. There's like 15 people working at one concession stand, right? And there's like running around and they're filling stuff up because they have 40,000 people they have to get stuff for. They have to be fast, fast, fast. And if they can't charge enough, they can't hire enough people. So now all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, yeah, sure. Everything's $2, but we can only pay one guy to do it. So the concession line is to the point where nobody can even get it. So it's like government manipulation and government regulation of the market creates all these other problems, and it was so bad. So this bill did fail, and it was like great to see. The people from the state fair down in Pueblo testified. The people from all the different, they're like, you would put us out of business. Like we can't operate if you have to tell the vendors at the state fair that they have to ignore the costs associated with being at the state fair and charge what the guy who down the street has a little hot dog stand is charging. Then they're just not going to be there. We're not going to have any vendors because nobody can make money and you're just shutting us all down. Like it was insane. That's the level of ignorance that Yara Zokai, they, them, Kyle Brown, William Lindstedt, Mike Weissman, these little brain trust of bad ideas down there, bad stuff there. Yeah, if you don't like the price, don't buy it, right? It's insane, folks. This is all stuff that like this is what's happening in our state government. We got to pay attention, right? Senate Bill 86. Hey, this was a good bill. Grave dancers, Tom Sullivan, reduce the premium cigar excise tax rate. Yeah, lower the taxes on cigars. I like a good cigar from time to time. It's been a long time since I had one. But hey, lower the taxes, great. Lower the taxes on everything. That's my opinion. And Sullivan, even though he wants to regulate our gun, take away everybody's ability to have a gun, he's a cigar smoker. And literally, I don't know if you guys saw the post from one of the other state reps who posted about how Sullivan left like his cigar butts on the steps of the Capitol when he was outside. And then that Republican legislator deleted that post. I should have taken a screenshot because they were trashing. They were calling him out. They're like, "Yeah, look at Tom Sullivan. He's leaving his cigar butts everywhere and this and that." And I don't know. Somebody said something. It was like, and so he deleted that post. But he was getting caught and getting raked through the coals for just being a bad steward. A bad guy. But nonetheless, hey, lower taxes on cigars, great. Lower taxes on everything. That bill did fail though. Opt out of mail ballot packets for elections. This was LZW, Linda Zora Wilson's idea, saying, hey, if you don't want to get a mail in ballot, because maybe you're worried about fraud, maybe you're traveling, maybe there's reasons why you just don't want to get a ballot in the mail, you should be able to opt out of that and just go vote in person. That's on you as an individual if you want to be able to do that. Of course, the Democrats don't like that idea. Anything that's going to challenge mail in voting, the Democrats are going to stop. So Senate Bill 106 was stopped. House Bill 1072, right to firearm possession, elimination of extreme risk protection orders. Now, this was great because Scott Slaw is my state rep. He's brand new down there. And he was basically in this one bill saying, yeah, listen, we're going to eliminate red flag gun confiscation in Colorado. Now, we know we call these things messaging bills, right? We know the Democrats are going to kill these bills. But nonetheless, it is important to get the talking points out there, to get some headlines, to get some people interested, to show the difference between the Democrats and Republicans, as I stated earlier, right? The idea is we're getting the conversation going. And you got to think, folks, you got to think, how did the left take over Colorado? It took them decades, right? And they didn't give up. They'd show up at the committee hearing and they would lose, but they'd keep showing up. And maybe they got one more seat that next election, two more seats. And then all of a sudden they won. But they didn't give up and they fought. And they got all this information and mobilized and rallied their people. So that's what we're doing here, folks. House Bill 1108, the Colorado Bureau of Investigation access to our federal fingerprint search service. So basically, anybody fingerprinted in the Colorado Bureau of Investigation would go into a federal database for the rest of their lives. Like I have a sales license because I sell RVs and boats. So I'm fingerprinted. You have to have a sales license to sell boats and RVs in Colorado. Like that's my day job. So I'm fingerprinted with a CBI. They were going to send my fingerprints, every single person, including concealed carry holder permit holders, fingerprints to the FBI to be put in a database forever. So this bill was failed. And I got to say, thank you, Rocky Mountain gun owners, because they were giving them hell. And got Hartsook to basically, and Janice Rich, two Republicans, to withdraw the bill and say, yeah, listen, okay, we're getting beat up on this. We're pulling back. And they stopped this bill. Unfortunately, we had other gun rights organizations who said, no, we'll just amend the bill and make it better and let it pass. But our MGO is no compromise. So I got to applaud them for that. House Bill 1085, offer the pregnant person do not abort form. And yes, our state legislature has rules now that they have to say pregnant person. So it's not up to even the Republicans don't have a choice in terms of how the bill is written because the nonpartisan legislative staff has to write it according to the rules, right? So I thought this was a good bill. If you want to protect and promote life, at least give people the option to do this. Unfortunately, that bill did fail. Removal of wind energy from state energy goals, of course, failed. Second Amendment Protection Act, folks. That's House Bill 1021. Read that bill if you haven't read that bill, because literally what Representative Bradley and Brooks did is they had the bill writer list every single infringement on our gun rights. So it's like a laundry list. And that bill is a wonderful resource to show to people and be like, listen, here's what this bill would have repealed. It would have repealed all of these laws that are restricting our Second Amendment God-given rights to self-defense. So it was a good bill. Of course, the Democrats didn't kill it, but that's the kind of messaging bill we want because it proves a point, it shows the story, and it gets the information out there. We're almost wrapping up here, folks. Thanks for sticking with me here. Appreciate the Energizer Bunny comment. It does. It's a lot going on, but I've been watching the chat and I just appreciate everybody here. And it's fun to go over all this. This is my passion here. So House Bill 1149, Legislative Committee Testimony Required Oath. Now, I'm always trying to get more people to testify in committee hearings, right? We need more citizen involvement. We need more pro-liberty voices participating in our state government. This bill would have said, if you want to testify on a bill, Mr. John Q. Public, you have to swear an oath that what you're saying is the absolute truth as far as you know it. Now, this, of course, would have a chilling effect. It would prevent people from doing parody testimony. It would infringe on our First Amendment rights because, you could just see what this would happen because I've been challenged by Democratic legislators before, right? I'm testifying on a bill and I've had a Democratic legislator, I think it was even Jennifer Bacon, was like, well, is there any tax increase you'd support? And I'm like, trying to put me on the spot, trying to catch me. And if I had to say an oath, could you imagine you try and say an oath, and then you have these Democrat legislators who are basically activists working with their nonprofits and NGOs, and they're like, "Ooh, here comes somebody. Let's try and get them. Let's try and challenge them." And they try and get you to. It's like being on trial. And they're like, "Oh, let's try and get them to trip up over their words, and we're going to find out they were lying, and then we're going to go after them." And it's like, that's not what testimony should be about. Individuals should be able to testify. And I got to say, I was very disappointed in Representative Ty Winter, very disappointed in Senator Byron Pelton for pushing this. And I think they're going to bring it back next year. There needs to be some pushback on this. And I did challenge them publicly on it on social media. I was calling them out and saying this is a bad bill. I know they didn't like that, but that's the reality of it. We are free individuals. We have the right to participate in our government. We don't need to have any oaths and be caught in these situations where people are going to use our testimony against us. We're individuals doing the best we can, and we have a right to have a voice in the process. So, anyways, moving on, we're almost done here, folks. Senate Bill 27, the Peace Act, Parental Equality and Child Empowerment Act, basically saying that the starting point for custody disputes should be 50-50. That Senator Linda Zamora Wilson, good bill. Of course, Democrats stopped that one. Children Are Not for Sale Act. Now, Scott Bottoms did prime sponsor 3 bills this year that mirror the Protect Kids Colorado ballot measures. So thankfully, we will have the opportunity to vote on this bill, basically creating new penalties for human trafficking of a minor. And this is one too, folks. Oh my gosh, the controversy around this bill, when this bill had so many people testifying in support of it, when the Democrats stopped this bill, when they postponed it indefinitely, it got so many people fired up. Like this was another bill where like legislators, I think, were getting comments that weren't good because they voted against this bill. And so I thought that was very interesting, but it just shows the passion out there. And honestly, these Democratic legislators who want to protect people who are trafficking children, they deserve all the criticism they can get. I mean, that's the reality of it, right? This bill was a little bit mixed for me. Still think it's probably a good bill. House Bill 1049, prohibit use of personal identifying feature. That bill did fail. Weinberg, in his last year in the legislature, ran a series of really good bills this year that all failed, of course, but to reduce the 120-day legislative session to 90 days, House Bill 1074, good bill. Of course, the Democrats stopped that one. Democrats also stopped his bill 1073, the limitations on bills introduced by General Assembly members. Right now, legislators can mostly introduce only 5 bills. There's some exceptions to that. But Weinberg's bill would have said, nope, only three, not 5. So that's a good bill. It is a great bill. Unfortunately, the Democrats didn't like it. Weinberg also ran a bill to eliminate all taxes on retirement benefits, House Bill 1062. And of course, this bill was stopped by the Democrats. And Bob Marshall, House District 43, I made a little meme about it. Bob Marshall voted against this bill. Bob Marshall voted to continue taxing retirement benefits for Colorado seniors. That needs to be remembered come election time. Oh, an insane bill from Brianna Titone, House Bill 1036, local taxes on vacant residential property. This bill would have said that your local government can now put a new tax if people aren't living in that property as many days as you see fit. You get to charge them more taxes. Insane. Insane. So you got a second home in the mountains, maybe you're traveling overseas, whatever. They're going to charge you more taxes. So they have little county assessors driving around seeing if you have is somebody staying here or not? Oh, now we can charge them more taxes. I mean, it's not the proper role of government. Absolutely insane. Thankfully, this bill was stopped. Really happy to see it stopped. A good bill from the Republicans, House Bill 1129, to basically say that we need to have gas as a utility because the Democrats are trying to get rid of natural gas in Colorado. But of course, the Democrats stopped that one. Carlos Baron's second year pushing this bill to allow us to drive more military surplus vehicles and get them registered for street legal use. Good bill. House Bill 1097. The Democrats stopped it, and it's insane that they did. I mean, this one shouldn't be that controversial, I don't think. House Bill 1087, this is Scott Bottoms on the other Protect Kids Colorado ballot measure, safeguard minors from sex-altering interventions. Good bill, basically saying, hey, if you're a kid, you shouldn't be getting mutilated because you don't even know what you're doing. You can't possibly consent to that. Some lifelong decision that's going to cause you irreparable harm and damage. So, of course, the Democrats stopped that bill, but thankfully we get to vote on it this fall, thanks to Erin Lee and her team and 3,000 volunteers at Protect Kids Colorado. Dan Woog, again, trying to repeal retail delivery fees. He keeps trying this. The Democrats keep shutting it down. But hey, it goes again. It shows you what the difference between the Republicans and the Democrats are. If we get a Republican majority, we can repeal a lot of these fees. Here's the graph saying, yeah, listen, if a kid is harmed through this genital mutilation surgeries, they shouldn't be limited on holding these doctors liable for the damage caused to them. Of course, the Democrats stopped that bill, House Bill 1128. Discuss adoption information with pregnant women, House Bill 1105. Scott Slaw did an interview with him, and he is adopted himself. He's proudly adopted, and he says he just wants to give more kids the opportunity and make sure that women know that, hey, listen, um, you can get information about adoption for your kid before you decide to abort them. If you want to get an abortion, here's just the information on adoption, and let them know that they can still have a life. So it was a good bill, I think. Unfortunately, failed. 1083, this is the Scott Bottoms. This is the third one. Protect Kids Colorado is running as a ballot measure, but the Protect Female Sports Act to get biological boys out of girls' sports. Thankfully, the people of Colorado will be able to vote on this fall. Our Democratic legislators did not want to protect girls' sports. Sukla, one of the best legislators down there, House Bill 1209, temporarily decrease statutory property tax revenue limits, lower our taxes for temporary purposes. Of course, the Democrats didn't like that. Really weird bill, House Bill 1137, requirements for campaign consultants. This is one of those rare bills that passed out of committee, and then failed on the House floor. Like the Democrats were like, there's too many of them on the House floor that didn't like this bill, and actually failed, which is you don't see very often. Usually these bills fail in committee. If they make it out of committee, they're usually making it through the floor. So very interesting to see, but I thought it was a bad bill. Wow, that's it, folks. Marathon session. Gosh, I thought we'd get done a lot faster with just me, with only one person talking, but still, I took 2 hours. I spent a little bit more time going through the updates on the bills just because I figured we had the time. Let's go through it, but that's what we got for this week, folks. My goodness. Follow Free State Colorado on social media, especially X. I'm going to be posting a lot. I really hope people that you share this video out with people. Go back. It's recorded on YouTube. Find those bills that you're interested in. Let's have a voice. Let's get this information out there. If you want to help make Colorado a free state, pay attention to how these legislators are voting, especially in swing districts. Let's hold them to account. Let's get this information out to the voters, get this information out to the public. We can turn Colorado around, but it's really going to take all of our efforts, the efforts of individuals across the state who are willing to get involved, have a voice, keep track of what's happening, and make sure our neighbors, our coworkers, our families, people we know are informed about what our state government is doing so we can change the direction of our state. That's where we're going, folks, and I appreciate you being along for the journey. I got so much more ahead at Free State Colorado. Please subscribe on YouTube, follow on X, Facebook, Telegram, all the good places. But I really appreciate you all. Thank you, Just Jimmy. Thank you, Nicker, Nunu, Mushroom, Simone, Killiam, Mike Dickerson, as always, Flight Pilot Explorer. Rock on, everybody. Really appreciate you. I do have to say real quick, I do have a new award over here. I was awarded Libertarian of the Year by the Libertarian Party of Colorado. We just had our state assembly. I'm a registered Libertarian. So for the last year, for 2025, they just awarded me for all the activism and all the work I've done, especially up here in Greeley with the Cascadia Project. And I'm just super thankful, folks. But I'm a true believer. We will be free one day. We are going to win. So keep up the good fight. I'm so happy we have so many people who are fighting, who are not giving up. And don't get me wrong, there's only so much we can do, right? Like I know what I can do is so limited, and I try and really remind myself, the impact each of us can have as individuals is so small, but if we all have our small impact, it adds up, right? Like, hey, I can help with this one Senate district. I'm going to be volunteering so much time this year to flip Senate seats, to flip House seats, to really preserve what we have and expand the Republicans in the state legislature, because we need to restore that balance. We need to get the Democrats out. We need at least to have some more balance and stop some of these bad bills. Like I said earlier, Senate Bill 43, 3 votes. It passed with 3 votes, folks. That's an inspiring, hopeful message. It's like, oh my gosh, we can flip 1 seat, 2 seats, and now all of a sudden we're stopping bad legislation. But first step is getting the information out there. I really appreciate you all. And yeah, we got a long road ahead of us, but we're going to win. We're going to fight. And just thank you so much. Appreciate you being along for the journey. And we will be free one day. So appreciate you all. Thank you, everybody. Take care, and we'll talk soon. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Appreciate all the comments. You guys are awesome. It really helps encourage me to keep doing this. I'm not giving up. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to do this even if nobody's watching. I'm still going to do it because I'm doing this because I'm a true believer. But seeing people on there and seeing some of my friends and familiar faces and stuff, it is very encouraging, and it just makes me really happy. So thank you, everybody. Keep up the good fight, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care, and yeah.